Hey, what's up, everybody? I am so elated about what is going on right now with the birthright citizenship. It has been described by President Trump, that the birthright citizenship was designated for the babies of slaves. And so many Oh, okay, I got kicked off. Sorry about that. But everybody has been taking advantage of this birthright citizenship for a very, very long time. And I am so appreciative that Trump is helping us out with sorting out who are the real Americans and who have been getting free rides and free loads, and that is all going to end on his watch. I am going to go through what Trump said and other news in relation to the birthright citizenship. And of course, there's been a whole lot of sad songs to sing in reference to immigrants being put on notice that essentially all their green cards and different things that they've gotten from the government, especially through the Biden administration, is all been null and voided, and that they've been scrapped from having access as they used to. And I think it's, a good thing because of what Biden pulled. If Biden did not allow the flooding of our country for millions of undocumented, unvetted, rogue type of people that just bogarted into this country, we wouldn't be in the predicament that we're in right now. And I know that a lot of people are trying to spread this racism that Trump is on or whatever like that. But he had to do this because we were being taken over. We were being ran over. We were being bullied. It was a rogue takeover. So we're going to now talk about what Trump had to say. I know I've been gone for a while. I've been gone for about a month, and I'm glad I took the time off to reflect and also just listen. I took a lot of time just to listen to different content creators and also, reflect on the things that I have been talking about on my platform. And I must say that I was right on the target well before FBA, ADOS. I had the mindset that I have right now. I just knew that those delineation movements was the best way to go with what we have going on right now. Panaffricanism is all a facade. And all this talk on YouTube about the so-called unity that can't be found in no Black ran country. Think about that. Haiti right now is the Haitians that are living in America are being told that their TPS, temporary protective status, has been revoked. And I don't hear any African country or president or dictator or whatever you want to call them, leader, reaching out to the Haitians and saying, hey, you can come over here. What about that Burkina Faso guy? They speak French. Why wouldn't he say, Haitians, never mind America, come over here. We have open arms for you. Nobody is saying nothing. No Pan-African, such as Afro Think Tank, no others are out there talking about them going to Africa. And we're going to get into that as well, because I think it's rather peculiar that people are not inviting Haitians to go to Africa. Of course, the Haitians do not want to go back to Haiti, and I wouldn't blame them. But why is there not an open letter, an invitation, a concern, a consideration for them to go to Africa when they're always spewing this rhetoric to Black Americans to go? And I find it just very peculiar that everybody is mums the word. Everybody wants Black Americans to go out and protest and put our bodies in front of everybody and be superheroes for all these illegals. And we're not doing it. And I'm so appreciative that my people, Indigenous Black Americans, are not being used and abused by different groups of people that do not give a damn about us and that would just use us up like an overly used bubble gum and spit out on the concrete when done. And we're not going for it. We're finally standing up for ourselves, and it feels good to be recognized as being an American. Forever on YouTube, you hear a lot of people saying that Black Americans are not really Americans. We're not really a part of America. We're like the stepchildren of America. We have been abused. Of course, we have a history that is not the greatest in this country, but we have persevered. We have overcame. We have, raised up from the ashes, and we have survived a lot of stuff, and we are Americans now. And that is the big distinction from the people that are trying to tell us to undermine ourselves and our history and our legacy and everything that's connected to us, and telling us that we should, pretty much renounce our citizenship and pretty much abandon America to appease Pan-African ideologists and other people that hate America. They would like to use us as tools. And with all this birthright citizenship and everything going on, all those things are being exposed, and we are telling people to their faces in so many words that we're not going to be your bitch. We're not going to be your hoe. We're not going to be gullible, and we're not going to be nobody's fool. So let's get to the first video of Trump. I know that by now some of you guys may have already seen the clip where he talked about what the meaning of the birthright citizenship is about, but I want it to be displayed on this platform just in case you have not seen it. And we'll get into a little bit of a conversation. For those that are in the chat room, thank you for appearing. I really appreciate all of you. And those that are in the clouds, please feel free to share your opinion as long as it's respectful. I'm not going to try to be malicious as best I can, but I'm going to be honest and blunt. I think that, we cannot just skirt around the truth and how we feel, because being silent and trying to be politically correct is kind of hindering a lot of people from being free to express themselves. And we need to be able to do that. And in this video, I'm going to be more transparent, probably more than I have in a while. But let's get to Trump now. Fair use of all videos that I show under the Copyright Act of 1976 for education, for reviewing, for commentary, for entertainment, for all the above, to kind of like understand where we are right now. And this is a whole new chapter that is now being levied onto Americans and America overall. And Trump is the one that's leading the charge. So let's listen to what he had to say. This video was about a week or so ago. 10 days ago. Let's review.
For the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law, in striking down the excessive use of nationwide injunctions to interfere with the normal functioning of the executive branch, the Supreme Court has stopped the presidency itself. That's what they've done. And really, it's been an amazing period of time this last hour. There are people elated all over the country. I've seen such happiness, and sometimes you don't see that, but this case is very important. I was elected on a historic mandate, but in recent months we've seen a handful of radical left judges effectively try to overrule the rightful powers of the president to stop the American people from getting the policies that they voted for in record numbers. It was a grave threat to democracy, frankly, and instead of merely ruling on the immediate cases before them, these judges have attempted to dictate the law for the entire nation. In practice, this meant that if any one of the nearly 700 federal judges disagreed with the policy of a duly elected president of the United States, he or she could block that policy from going into effect, or at least delay it for many years, tied up in the court system. This was a colossal abuse of power which never occurred in American history prior to recent decades, and we've been hit with more nationwide injunctions were issued in the entire 20th century together. Think of it, more than the entire 20th century, me. I'm grateful to the Supreme Court for stepping in and solving this very, very big and complex problem, and they've made it very simple. I want to thank Justice Barrett, who wrote the opinion brilliantly, as well as Chief Justice Roberts and Justices Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Thomas. Great people. Thanks for this decision, and thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this...
And I can just close my eyes and I can just imagine the great feats that people took to come to America, knowing that they were pregnant, knowing that they were about to deliver a child. Some people would even plan to just be here, just to be born and go back to their home countries. I think Akon admitted to doing that. He's originally from Senegal. And he talked about, yeah, I was born in America. We came just to be born, and I went back to Senegal, and I was raised up, and then I came back when I came of age. I mean, they deliberately just pimped America by using, you know, the birthright citizenship that was never meant for them. You know, the people of old, my ancestors and many others, paid the cost with blood, death, tears, disgrace, everything imaginable. Had to go to war, had to fight, even if the rights was not meant for them, for a very long time, until this provision was provided. And people just waltzed into America and took it and used it like toilet paper. They bastardized the meaning of the birthright citizenship. And Trump, in my opinion, is absolutely correct to set the record straight, because there's a lot of people pretending to be Black Americans. They call themselves African Americans. They have nothing to do with the history and legacy and lineage of our forefathers and our ancestors. And now he's trying to clear all the things that people have done to bastardize our identity and bastardize the meaning of what the birthright citizenship was meant for. And I know that there's a lot of people that are very upset because they just want to feel entitled, and they're acting very entitled, as if they died for the birthright citizenship. It's ridiculous. You guys have not earned anything to receive such a great privilege, such as a birthright citizenship. And I'm so glad that he's done that. Now, I don't agree with everything that Trump has done. I know while I was gone, he had a situation with Iran, even fell out with Musk. I was shocked by that. I never saw that coming. I never thought that Trump would fall out with Elon Musk, but hey, crazy stuff has happened, and crazier stuff I'm sure will continue to happen. But Trump has, you know, in my mind, the right mindset for what needs to happen to get America back on the right track. And it has to begin with the birthright citizenship. That's what it all boils down to. And that's the biggest thing that a lot of people are upset about. And they're recognizing that we as Indigenous American Blacks or Black Americans, whatever you want to call us, FBA, ADOS. We have had so many different names throughout, time being here in America. We were once called colored. Some of us was called mulatto, or just all kinds of different names we have had. And, the beginning of having that African American term really messed up the meaning of who are the people of this soil that built and helped build America, who earned the birthright citizenship because they allowed other people to come here that have nothing to do with America, nothing to do with the history, and they have used African American. Just think about Kamala Harris claiming to be an African American. Even people try to claim Barack Obama was an African American. This new clown in New York, what's his name? Zoharan Mamdi, whatever his name is, he even is called out for claiming on his potential college application as being an African American. So for him to set the record straight on the birthright citizenship will clear up these fake Americans, these people that are tricksters, these people that are outright liars. And I'm glad about it. Let's listen some more to this.
Let's just go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So thanks to this decision, we can now properly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people. We have so many of them. I have a whole list. I'm not going to bore you, and I'm going to have Pam and say a few words, but there's really, she can talk as long as she wants, because this is a very important decision. This is a decision that covers a tremendous amount of territory. But I want to just thank again the Supreme Court for this ruling. It's a giant, and they should be very proud. And
I am very, very proud. That's a little bit of what I wanted to show, just to showcase what he had to say. Everybody mostly seen it, I'm sure. But let's continue with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court now is allowing for rapid deportations to countries where immigrants have no ties, and a whole host of things. I heard of Alligator Alcatraz detention center that's been built recently, I believe in Florida, and the Everglades or something like that. And they are surrounded by alligators and pythons, and they have a whole host of things that are now being a deterrent for people to just self-deport. And I would suggest for people that are listening that are illegals, or you're not quite sure how you will be with all these different changes, perhaps you should think about considering the self-deport while you have a chance to get your monies out and get your family to also go with you, so that there's no separation, so that you're not sent to detentions or another country or all these different places that he's coming up with. He's not playing, y'all. He wants to make it really no nonsense whatsoever across the board. And so for people that are just lingering around, trying to see how it goes, you're really playing Russian roulette with your life, because the Supreme Court so far is working with Trump. So let's look at this video. Again, this is talking about the rapid deportations. And then after this video, I want to come to the chat room and see what you guys have to say about it.
Fear and confusion spreading through immigrant communities following a Supreme Court ruling that greenlights the Trump administration's power to quickly deport undocumented immigrants. And that is even to countries where they have no family or any connection at all. To break down what this ruling means and who could be affected, we're joined by immigration attorney Miriam Masumi Dowd. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me today.
So first of all, what do you think about this ruling? I mean, the basis for allowing people to be sent to another country other than where they're even originally from?
Well, I think what the Supreme Court has done is essentially nullify federal law and our international treaty obligations. The United States is a party to the Convention Against Torture Treaty, which requires us to not send anybody to a third country where they could face imminent torture or persecution. And I think by allowing the administration to go forward with third country removals before the lower courts even decide the legality of the process is something that's going to cause a lot of irreversible harm.
Should this be, as an attorney, I mean, should this be something that is reserved for people with a clear criminal record? Because we're seeing cases of people who are accused of possibly committing a crime, and they're not just being sent to another country, they're being sent to another country, to a prison, to a facility.
Right. So regardless of whether someone has criminal history or not, our laws are very clear that if an administration wants to send someone to a country that they have no ties to, they must follow certain basic steps embedded within due process. Usually the requirements are that the government give an individual at least some sort of notice that they will be sent to this country, as well as an opportunity to express a fear of return to that country and demonstrate to a judge that their life is in danger there. And at this point, it really, again, doesn't matter whether someone has criminal history or not. That due process should exist. But what the Supreme Court order does is allow the Trump administration to bypass that process and move forward with removals to countries of their own choosing. And these can be countries that are very dangerous. We've seen removals to Sudan and South Sudan and Libya, countries that the State Department has declared as being very dangerous. So ultimately, due process is required regardless of whether or not someone has arrest history or not.
Well, and speaking of due process and having a chance to present their case, we're looking at some of the video where these ICE raids have taken place. These ICE agents are waiting outside courthouses as people are trying to pursue a legal path to citizenship for their immigration hearings. So how will this play out there? Are we going to see more of this probably?
Well, the tactic of detaining people at immigration court is something that is something I haven't seen. I've been an immigration lawyer for 15 years, and this is a very aggressive tactic. And it will depend on the stage at which a person's case is. If a person has already a final order of removal by an immigration judge, there is a possibility for the government to move forward with a third country removal. If the person is somebody who's subjected to what we call expedited removal, there may be a possibility of third country removal in that scenario. So ultimately, it will depend it'll depend on the procedural posture of the person's case. But it is truly concerning that more and more people are facing the possibility of third country removal without the very basic due process rights that exist within our system.
What they got to understand is Trump is nowhere near Biden, and what they have been allowed to get away with for all these 4 years is not being tolerated no more. And I think that the immigrants are just going to have to come to terms with this new era that we're currently living under, and that if they choose to stick it out, they might be caught up in some uncomfortable positions that they don't want to be dealing with. I wouldn't want to be sent to South Sudan or end up at that Alligator Alcatraz. None of those places, detention centers or anything like that. When you had the flexibility of knowing in advance way back in November, and now we're in July, and people are still just sitting about twiddling their thumbs, pretending like nothing's going to happen to them. And then they're hearing all these different stories of the Supreme Court working with Trump, and all these other things are being erected to detain your ass. and deport your ass. So they should know full well that he's not playing around. And I'm suggesting for those that are listening and you want to play Russian roulette, you might burn if you do that. So, I would take Trump for what he says, because that's the type of guy he is. He's not playing around. So let me see now what you guys have to say in the chat room, and I will continue forward. I appreciate everybody that has hit the like button. If you have not yet, please do so. You can double tap the screen, or you can go to the little emblem, 3 dots, and hit that, and then hit the thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. And I know that a lot of people, again, is really feeling like us as being Black American, quote unquote, we should be on the side of minorities no matter what. Unfortunately, I am not on the side of people coming over here illegally, because that is against progress for Americans, all Americans, including Black Americans. When you have people flooding into the country, those people have to stay somewhere. Those people are looking for work. Those people are your competition. Those people are taking up resources that should be going to homeless, to vets, to other people that's on disability or any other type of situation that Americans are facing. And when you have illegals come over, they're taking over the spot and slots of those people that should be having it. So I'm not for illegal immigration, because it is counterproductive in helping out Americans when they need it most. And there's a lot of Americans that are in need. When all these people came over here, they were put up into hotels in New York and all that. What about the vets and the common American folks? They were out on their ear, out on the street, or just living in a shelter, or just asked out altogether. And these people came over here and they got the cream of the crop. They were ahead of the line. They cut in line, they cut off people. So why in God's green earth would I support illegal immigration? That is stupid. That is against our survival. And I'm all about Americans surviving. As you know, Trump is cutting corners, and, he got the big, beautiful bill that he just signed on the 4th of July. There's a lot of people that's going to be feeling a lot of pain behind that. Medicaid is supposedly going to get cut. Section 8 and other programs are going to be cut. So we all are going to be feeling it one way or the other. Even if you're not directly going to feel it, maybe your family member will feel it. Maybe your wife will feel it. Maybe your auntie will feel it. Maybe your grandma will feel it. We don't know. But we all need to know that we are Americans, and we need to cleave to one another with all the changes that are happening, and not be so concerned about people that came over here illegally, because they were pretty much replacing us. That's what Biden, in my opinion, was trying to do. And I really believe still that if Kamala Harris would have became president, she would have had maybe 10 million more flooding in. So even though I don't like everything that Trump's doing, I still have to support him overall, because to think about Kamala Harris becoming president and doing what she was thinking about doing, my God, it would have been crazy. Jack 106. It says, please read Title 8 USC Alien and Nationality Act. I'll play a video for you. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on. I think I had, I don't think I know much about it, but let me try to, I thought I had a video on that first. US, what is it called? Hold on, let me go back up. Let me look it up in a minute. Hold on, let me read all the other comments first, and then I'll look that up. All right, you said the Africans and Caribbeans are crashing out about birthright. Yeah, they are, because they had been assuming for the longest that they were on our level. They were assuming that they were the same as us, and they're not. They're not Indigenous Americans, and they shouldn't be treated like us because they didn't earn those rights. Those were our birthrights that we earned. Yes, Ibram Torre, Joshua, has not come out and invited the Haitians. He has invited Black Americans to go over there and invest our money. Why can't he do the same for the Haitians? What is up with people not wanting to include Haitians? It's very weird and odd. You know, this Pan-African talk, we're all the same. We're all one. We're all Black. Y'all don't give a damn about the Haitians. Why isn't anyone reaching out to the Haitians to go to Africa? Wouldn't that be the easier thing for them to do? They could go to Senegal, they can go to Burkina Faso, they can go to all the different French-speaking countries and assimilate over there. They're closer to being African than anybody. They even have a culture similar to Africans. And yet no one has whispered the words that I'm saying to invite them to Africa. Why have them stay here in America and get rounded up and mistreated or detained or treated messed up or whatever, or even being sent back to Haiti? I would not want to go back to Haiti. Sheena says the Haitians are saying they are not going back. This is a problem. They ain't got to go back, but they're not going to be able to stay here. Trump is not, I don't believe, unless a judge is going to get involved and force the extension of this temporary protective status, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen, but we'll see. But if I was Haitians, I would just go to Africa. If it's good for us to go do, why isn't it good for Haitians to go do? I'm so confused. How you doing, Elizabeth? Thank you for coming through. Count Loco says Indigenous Native American Indians were here before Black Americans. Count Loco, what I mean by Indigenous, we were here before the Constitution was erected. We were here before the building of America was built. We helped to build America, thus making us Indigenous. I'm sorry that you feel some kind of way. I don't know what Indians contributed to America, but not what Black Americans contributed to America. You can speak for them. I'll speak for my people, okay? And I can use the word Indigenous if I like. I don't care if you don't like me using that word. Get over yourself. If you can't get over it, then just leave the channel. I don't give a damn, okay? And Andrew says, can't see anything. You will in a little bit. And Diana says, there is no video up. It's a black screen. Okay, it's coming back in a little bit. I'd like to talk where you guys can hear me, in my opinion. And sometimes I don't show a video as I'm speaking. Sorry about that. Sheena says, I'm shocked that the Democrats are not out defending immigrants. Well, they are. They're trying to liken their situation with what has happened with slavery. I heard a Democrat say that. I can't remember the name. But Democrats are trying to say that what the illegals are going through is similar to slavery. It's so disrespectful. Because these illegals bogarted over here illegally. We came by force. We're not immigrants. Okay? And to compare them as one and the same is disrespecting our lineage and our ancestors and what we went through with slavery and everything like that, because the illegals don't have to go through any of this. They can simply go back. Trump's making it available for them to go self-deport, and I believe he gives you like $1,000 to get the fuck out of Dodge. They don't have no excuse. They just don't want to go back. They don't want to take the same energy that they have over here and apply that to over there in Mexico, and apply that over there in Haiti, and apply that over there in Jamaica, and apply that over wherever they come from. They got all this gumption about themselves when they're on the soil of America screaming out rights that they ain't earned, that they don't deserve. But they can't do that over there in their own country. They can't go bum rush the government, the palace or wherever the government places are, and get rid of the president and do what this Burkina Faso leader Torre did. They are cowards because they should be able to do the same thing that they want to do over here, over there. They don't have a problem with burning our American flag. They don't have a problem with vandalizing and stealing and doing all these different things, disrespecting the ICE agents and police and everything like that. I remember seeing a Mexican young lady calling the police officer a nigga. Very disrespectful. You know, they don't have respect for rules. They don't think that rules should apply to them. They think that they should be given everything. And I don't believe in that. That's bogus. They should do that shit over where they come from, not over here. So I'm glad that Trump is setting the record straight and getting them the fuck out of here. I'm sorry. You said, hello, President Trump. Okay, from Croatia. Oh, you're talking about Trump. Okay. Julie says, we love you, President Trump. And then you said, no, we don't. I like President Trump. I'm not going to say I love him, but I like Trump. I like him over Kamala Harris still, even though he's kind of rough around the edges, sometimes a little bit too bold and blunt, maybe doing a lot of stuff all at once that might have an ill effect to us collectively. I don't know. We have to wait and see. Everything is happening so fast and my head is spinning by all the different changes that are happening, but I just have to hold on and wait for what is going to happen and pray that everything is going to work out somehow. What's up, Nita? How are you? All right, let me see. Orange. All right. Orange shit stain. Okay. Free Carnival cruise for the Indigenous blacks leave in Mexico. Sure they be. ASAP. Oh, I think the Black Americans should leave Mexico ASAP because they're becoming very hostile. They don't want Americans over there disrupting their lifestyle with their monies and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure that's going to get kind of hairy over there in Mexico with the Americans that are over there. So they better just get out of Dodge. David Sherman, who is that? I can't hardly listen to the continuous lies by this tiny man, okay? Trump gonna get it done. Yes, he is. Name one lie, chef. Okay. So says the immigrant. Who's the immigrant? There ain't no immigrant here. And I'm not a Democrat, by the way, for those that are assuming I am independent. Yes. Yeah, Kamala Harris definitely pretended to be black and called herself an African American. I really was offended by that. I was very, very angered by her pretending to be an African American. That pissed me off. Randall Hutchinson, Music of Life says, true, but you can't throw away the baby with the bathwater. It's not just about the part of that amendment of the Constitution. Read the whole thing. Well, I did read the whole thing, and it talked about the jurisdiction thereof. Like you're supposed to be connected to the authorities and the jurisdiction of where you are from. And a lot of people were not a part of the jurisdiction thereof. They came somewhere else and just hopscotched into America and tethered themselves to an amendment that was not meant for them because it was created, I believe, by the Democrats, and they abused that amendment for so many years. I don't know how many years, probably 30 plus years. And Trump said, hell no, when I become president again, I'm going to nip that in the bud. And that's exactly what he's doing. You said this is not a real problem anyone should care about. What are you talking about? Immigrant illegals? Bogarden? Yes, they should be concerned. At what point should you be concerned then? Let me know. This country is going to hell in a handbasket. Oh, you think so? And this is just a pot calling kettle black. All right. Trump 2028. I wonder. Don't forget how Hitler started. I don't think it's going to go that way. I know that a lot of people are trying to fear monger and using a lot of propaganda, trying to, incite this, fear and phobia, especially in Black Americans. But this time it's not really working out. We're just going to let things happen and see how it goes. We're not going to put our necks on the line. And a lot of people are really butthurt about that. They really have been used to us going out and fending for everybody else's rights. But we finally got it. This is not benefiting us personally. It's setting us in the back further. And we said, hell no, we're not doing this shit no more. You can go protest. You can go get arrested. You can go get deported. You can go get tickets or whatever the hell that they do. Rubber guns or bullets, whatever you call it, and all these other things, tear gas. I'm not going to put myself out on the line for people that do not give a damn about me at all. And they will surely move on once you sacrifice yourself. We are not sacrificing ourselves for nobody else anymore. I understand that we have a legacy of doing that, but that legacy is over. We're going to live out what was given to us, the gifts of what Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Frederick Douglass, and everybody else, helped us get. We're not going to, disrespect it by helping out illegal people that don't need to be here. None of these people need to be here. They have not earned nothing to be here. You said America on a comeback. All right, you don't get to decide which uses of the birth certificates are valid or not. Yeah, the judge will, though. You said no one should have to earn birthright citizenship. Yes, they should. We did. Coon dog, we earned it. Promises made, promises kept. Okay. You won't agree with everything, but our world needs a strong America. Yes, we do. And birthright citizen isn't a privilege, though. It's a right. Yes, it is. You're right about that. And Kyle says garbage. And you're the entitled one. It's a birthright that our ancestors earned, coon dog. It is what it is. And Alex says, I know a few women that love done that. Okay. And Lena Bell, all of a sudden we are hearing about this and I'm NA and never did. And you like turtles, David says. Black people finally woke up. Yes, we did, Drew. We really finally woke up. And I was so happy because for the longest time, I've been on YouTube since 2018. I started researching all the things that were messaged to Black Americans continuously on YouTube. And it was a lot of this Pan-African talk. It was a lot of this, you Black Americans are lost people. You don't know who you are. You don't know where you come from. You're not really an American. All these messed up messages that were particularly, brought to us. And, it's obvious to me that it's a propaganda movement, Pan-Africanism, or whatever you want to call it, that's trying to make our living situation in America irrelevant. And we're not doing that no more. And a lot of people are upset that we're becoming proud Americans. They figure with everything that has happened to us, that we should not have no type of pride. We should not have our head raised up. We should not have nothing. But we're not listening to y'all no more. You guys cannot manipulate us anymore. You guys can't tell us how to feel and how to be. And you're going to have to get used to the fact that we have a brain and we're using it. And that's what people are mad about, because they're so used to us acting very ignorantly and blindly, not thinking about nothing, just going off of emotions. And we're not doing that now. All right, AOC, I don't like her. I hope she gets deported, Jeff. All right, you can have your own opinion. The Coon Dog, you got a very interesting name. And Robert says, who's going to decide who gets citizenship? Maybe you're the wrong shade. Maybe it becomes transactional. And maybe you won't have enough money to be here then. Pretty pure stupidity. I understand what you're saying, Robert. It does feel like it could drift in some other avenue or other things that could happen, which brings me to the Alligator Alcatraz. Let me play that video in just a second. Let me see. You're black, I'm pink. All right. Who's worse off? Your president's family. Yeah, of course I don't have an authority, but I do have a right to say that there are people who are claiming to be American, Coon Dog, who are not. There are people who's claiming to be an African American who does not share the lineage and bloodline of the indigenous American blacks. And we're sick of it. We're sick of people coming up over here talking about, oh, I'm from Africa. I can use African American. Bastardize in our name. Can we go do that to them in Africa? Can we claim their specific identity and tribe and everything like that? No, we can't go do nothing to no one else, but everybody seems to think that they can do that to us. And we're sick and tired of that. That's why we have decided to delineate. It's not about hating Africans or Caribbeans or anything like that. It's about respecting ourselves. It's about us acknowledging our own true ancestors of America. And it's about not allowing people to cancel our lineage, because that's what they're trying to do now. And I'm glad that Trump is on the side of delineation, with him doing the ruling for the birthright citizenship is going to only accept people that are real Americans, that are perceived as being real Americans, and all the others are going to have to start all over again or get out of Dodge and leave. That's it. Let me see. How you doing, Margaret? Thank you for coming through. Get with the program. You don't have to say. It has been upheld before by the Supreme Court in 3 occasions. Sheena says some of their countries of birth do it. I want them back. Bierman says the Constitution decides who is American, not the president. Okay, but they are interpreting the meaning of the birthright citizenship and what it should have meant. And it was broadened for some reason to not mean what it meant. And now Trump is trying to go back to the basics with the meaning of the birthright citizenship. And I agree with him. You said, why would his kids be deported? He's an American citizen. Think you get to declare yourself more American than others, even if they also came here legally. We are more American than the people that came over here legally, because they have not been here for hundreds of years, Coon Dog. You sound silly. People that's been here for over 400 years, you think that the people that just got here is more American, as American as people has been here for hundreds of years? Are you okay? And no changes. He's upholding the laws and the books. That's right. And nice finger poke. Okay. And he and the Supreme Court or Supreme can came the Constitution. So again, he does have the authority. He is an American. No kings. Okay. Obey the laws here in the United States. Yes. So send them home. We do not business. Mrs. M says, okay, you said, please, I'll play a video. I had the video up and for some reason it deleted it. I don't know. Let me see. US. Okay. 8. USC Alien and Nationality Act. Nationality Act. Okay, let me play a short little video and see what this says real quick. Let me see. Let me find a little simple video. I mean, because before we never really paid attention to these types of things. I don't know what immigrants go through, what process they're under, because I'm not an immigrant, so I never ever knew. But listen to this video real quick, and I'll be back.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're diving into Title 8 of the United States Code, which focuses on aliens and nationality. It's an important and often misunderstood part of our legal framework, dealing with all matters related to immigration, naturalization, and citizenship status. Title 8 of the U.S. Code is broken down into various chapters that address specific aspects of aliens and nationality. Let's start with an overview. The initial chapters, 1 to 9, address general provisions and definitions, immigrant visas, the nationality at birth and collective naturalization, and right of American nationals to change nationality. They form the backbone of our nation's immigration and nationality laws. Chapters 11 and 12 deal with the various aspects of nationality and naturalization. This includes the rules for acquiring citizenship, the process for naturalization, and the grounds on which citizenship can be lost. Moving on, we find that chapters 13 and 14 discuss administrative provisions and the immigration and nationality-related powers of the president, respectively. It details the roles and responsibilities of the executive branch in enforcing these laws. Chapter 15 discusses the alien terrorist removal procedures. It is the legal procedure in place for the removal of alien terrorists from the U.S. Chapter 16 deals with the Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act of 1996, which made several modifications to the existing laws. In the next chapters, we have the provisions regarding Visa Waiver Permanent Program, the Enhanced Border Security and Visa Entry Reform, and the Uniting and Strengthening America by Providing Appropriate Tools Required to Intercept and Obstruct Terrorism, USA Patriot ACT, which was a response to the September 11th attacks. Title 8 of the United States Code, in all its detail and breadth, provides the legal framework that determines who can enter the U.S., who can stay, who can become a citizen, and under what conditions individuals might be removed. It's a fascinating look into the complexities of immigration law and the legal aspects of nationality. As always, this video is meant to provide an overview and is not a substitute for professional legal advice. If you have questions about your personal situation, please consult an immigration attorney. Thanks for tuning in today.
Anyways, it just pretty much showcases that there are laws on the books and there are procedures that these people that are seeking to become legalized citizens have to follow, and there are ways in which you could lose your citizenship. There's different things that you can do that can put you on the chopping block, and Trump is gonna bring that all out. That's what's about to happen. So let's get now to the latest with the Alcatraz, the Alligator Alcatraz. I thought that was very interesting. I know that it is kind of, what is the word, crude a little, to have alligators and pythons, and you can't leave, of course, but it is a detention center, and you are here illegally, and you are given fair warning about these things well before now. And people are taking their sweet time to self-deport, assuming that they can just, wait it out, get rights that they don't earn or deserve. Somehow, maybe have a judge somehow save them at the last minute. And they're finding out that it's not really going to go down like that. So it is what it is. Let me go to the small clip about this Alligator Alcatraz. Let me find this video. If you have not yet, please hit the like button. I think it's a deterrent for people to know that is waiting out there for you to get to. if you do not leave, if you do not self-deport, I think it's a great way to scare people to leave. I wouldn't want to take a chance in going to a damn Alligator Alcatraz or any other detention center, or being sent to another country I'm not even from. There was a story, before I get to that video, about a Jamaican guy. Well, he's half Jamaican and half Kenyan. His father was a military guy for the United States of America, but he was from Jamaica. And I guess at the time that he was living in Germany, he was not a full-fledged legal citizen yet. And his son was born on the premise of the Germany military base. And somehow he got deported recently to Jamaica when he's never been in Jamaica ever before. So there's a lot of different cases such as his and others that they're going to find themselves in and being sent to different places because they really don't have a place for you to go. And so I would, try to help people to realize it's not worth taking the risk like some of these other people are taking. And why not just take the power and get all your money in order and do what you need to do to get out of Dodge? That would be the smartest thing to do, versus leaving it in the hands of Trump to just handle you any kind of way he sees fit. I wouldn't want to be treated like that. But look at what I mean with this inside the Alligator Alcatraz.
Now for Inside Alligator Alcatraz. Today, President Donald Trump took a tour of the controversial new immigration detention facility in the Everglades. This is a place they say is meant to keep migrants who've been detained before they're deported.
And that facility can hold about 5,000 people inside of it, but not everyone is happy with the facility's purpose or its location. West 2 News anchor Stuart Moore live outside that facility now. And Stu, the first inmates could be housed there very soon.
That's right, Nancy. The first inmates could be brought here sometime today. We have been told by the governor's office, not sure exactly the time that could happen or if that's actually going to happen today. But just behind me is this facility that's now known as Alligator Alcatraz. That nickname given by representatives here in Florida. Earlier today, President Trump arrived here at around 11 o'clock this morning and was greeted on the tarmac here at the Everglades Airport by Governor Ron DeSantis. Now, the two were pretty cordial and direct, but very much aligned on the policy of detaining and deporting millions of people who are in the country illegally. Trump toured the facility known as Alligator Alcatraz that was constructed in just 8 days. Governor DeSantis used an executive order to seize this property located just off the Tamiami Trail. Now, President Trump praising the action, saying no other state has done more to implement his deportation plan than Florida.
It's known as Alligator Alcatraz, which is very appropriate because I looked outside and it's not a place I want to go hiking anytime soon. But very soon, this facility will house some of the most menacing migrants, some of the most vicious people on the planet. We're surrounded by miles of treacherous swampland, and the only way out is really deportation. And a lot of these people are self-deporting back to their country.
And see, that's what I think that Trump ultimately wants them to do. He wants them to self-deport. He's hoping that you get scared out of your mind, that you do not want to risk going to this type of place, that you would just go yourself. That's what I believe he's trying to do. And he's trying to dry up every avenue of monies, programs, to help and aid these illegals. So he's purging all these different programs to make it hard for these illegals to just be comfortable in America so that they leave. I would suggest you go do what he's asking you to do. Why take a chance?
Now, Trump stayed here at the Alligator Alcatraz for that part of 2 hours, taking the tour, and then obviously also being a part of that roundtable discussion with the governor and other representatives. For his part, Governor Ron DeSantis is calling on these other state leaders to do the exact same thing that Florida has done in this situation. Reminder, this place initially could hold about 1,000 people. They can ramp that up to 3,000. Another 2,000 people be held at a National Guard facility that's not far from here. The governor says that can also expand as well as the need base continues to grow for ICE detainees. Now, it will cost taxpayers $450 million a year. That will be taken on by the federal government, who will be picking up the tab. Of course, coming up in our next half hour, you're going to hear from people who are against this facility, not only for reasons of environmental, but also because this is their homeland. This is where their families were uprooted and stay just down the road from here, because this place is obviously known as a place that's full of nature with alligators and panthers and other wildlife here. But people still do live in this community. You're going to hear from some of those protesters coming up in our next half hour. Reporting live in South Florida, Stuart Moore, West 2 News.
Like what I just talked about a little bit earlier, this particular Jamaican guy, half Kenyan, has literally been made stateless by what is going on. And I want you guys to hear this story, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be plenty more of these types of stories that are going to come out, where a lot of people that assume that they were with a green card or something, a resident or whatever, and they thought they were safe, and you're not so safe and sound as you thought, especially if you had a criminal past. They're also using your criminal past to take away your citizenship. If you just were made legal and they found something out that you didn't report in your past or something like that, they're going to revoke your citizenship. All these different things are happening, affecting so many people. It's just so stressful to even hear the stories, to be honest with you. But here's the latest.
Jermaine Thomas, born in 1986 to a United States military member on an army base in Germany, was deported last week to Jamaica, a country he has never visited. His father, originally from Jamaica, became a U.S. citizen during his 18-year military career. Thomas spent much of his childhood moving between bases with his father and mother, who was a Kenyan citizen at the time of his birth. At the age of 11, following his parents' divorce and his mother's remarriage to another soldier, Thomas moved to Florida to live with his father, who had retired. Tragically, his father passed away in 2010 from kidney failure shortly after Thomas arrived. Thomas's later years were marked by hardship, as he spent much of his life in Texas, experiencing homelessness and frequent incarcerations. It is unclear when Thomas was first ordered to leave the United States, but in 2015, a case reached the Supreme Court. The U.S. Department of Justice argued that Thomas was not a citizen because he was born on a U.S. Army base in Germany. The Supreme Court sided with the DOJ, affirming the U.S. Court of Appeals decision and denying Thomas's petition for a review of the deportation order. The court noted that Thomas's father did not meet the physical presence requirement of the statute in force at the time of his birth, and highlighted Thomas's prior criminal convictions. Without citizenship in the U.S., Germany, or Jamaica, Thomas found himself stateless, but remained in the U.S., most recently residing in Killeen, Texas. His deportation to Jamaica began with an eviction from his apartment. While moving out, he was arrested for trespassing, a misdemeanor in Texas. Advised by a court-appointed lawyer that he might remain in jail for an extended period awaiting trial, Thomas signed a release agreement with conditions. However, instead of being released from Bell County Jail, he was transferred to an Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention camp near Houston, where he was held for 2.5 months. Now in Kingston, Jamaica, Thomas resides in a hotel but is uncertain who is covering the cost or how long he can stay there. He is unsure about job prospects or...
That's a messed up situation. I really feel bad for the guy. He doesn't have any family. He's living in a hotel now in Jamaica. He doesn't know anybody probably over there like that. And he's, over there, unfortunately. This is what types of situations that may come up out of these people that are not full-fledged American like that. But Trump also is calling for deporting even natural-born citizens if you are a felon and you are murderous or you're a raper and you do all these horrendous types of crimes, he is alluding that he's going to look into getting rid of some of y'all as well. And, you know, I'm not going to say that I feel bad for people that are out here murdering and raping and doing all these other things. And they might have been a criminal for umpteen years, you know, continual repeaters of jail and prison all the time. If you put yourself in that predicament and you've been a lifelong criminal, Trump is looking to deal with you as well. So really, eventually, people that are real bad people that are American born might find themselves going to a detention center that's not too good to go to. Maybe go to another third world country like Sudan and all these other places. Their rights are stripped from them once they're in prison, and Trump's going to treat you however he sees fit. So listen to what he has to say here.
Like you say, you know, a little controversial, but I couldn't care less. We have a lot of bad criminals that came into this country, and they came in stupidly. It was an unforced error. It was an incompetent president that allowed it to happen. It was an auto pen maybe that allowed it to happen, and it did happen. But we also have a lot of bad people that have been here for a long time. People that whack people over the head with a baseball bat from behind when they're not looking and kill them. People that knife you when you're walking down the street. They're not new to our country. They're old to our country. Many of them were born in our country. I think we ought to get them the hell out of here too. You want to know the truth. So maybe that'll be the next job that we'll work on together. But one of the
like I said, I'm not concerned because I'm not a criminal. I'm not a felon. I don't have problems with selling drugs or doing all the different things that might get you on his list. I do believe that eventually Trump is going to go deal with some of the bad actors in our community, such as gangbangers, people that are part of, you know, drug trafficking, human trafficking, all these other types of things. You might find yourself messed up if you are partaking in these types of lifestyles, because Trump is going to, again, in his mind, he's trying to clean up America completely. And if it does affect some of Americans that are a hindrance to our community, that have been a thorn in our side, who are holding us hostage and keeping us from being productive citizens, then I don't really have an issue with those types of people being sent somewhere else. I'm sorry, they're not doing anything that's benefiting our communities as a whole. So I'm not worried. But if you are a criminal, you might want to clean up what you're doing. You might want to cold turkey stop. You might want to try to switch up real quick now before you are already known and investigated, and they're looking at you and they're looking to deal with you. So that's what I would say. I know a lot of people have been trying to use what he said there to fearmonger Black Americans. A lot of Mexicans and other immigrants have been online, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, claiming that we're next, claiming that it's our problem as well, and all this type of crap. And I'm here to let you all know that it is not our problem. It is not our fight. We're done putting on capes for other people. We're done marching and putting our neck on the line for people that do not appreciate anything that we have done before. So you guys are on your own. Hopefully you guys will get the memo early and just self-deport and encourage Haitians, for God's sake. Let's talk about Haiti now. It's very interesting to me. You have so many Pan-Africans that are hell-bent on Black Americans going to Africa, on Black Americans contributing, building up Africa. They want us to be debt slaves to Africa. But when you talk about someone that's like Haitians that are losing their temporary protective status, they're not saying anything to Haitians at all. And it's very weird to me because it's like these people are being disrespected by everybody around the world. The Dominicans don't want them. The Jamaicans don't want them. Apparently Africa don't want them. The United States don't want them. But why isn't the Pan-Africans speaking up for the Haitians? When you could try to encourage them because they have their connectiveness among themselves to go to Africa to save themselves away from going to Haiti. Why is this conversation not being had? I am so confused. It does not make sense to me, but let me see if I can find this video to play this real quick because it is unfortunate. I wish that an African country would reach out to the Haitians and say, hey, we want you. You're not alone. This is Pan-African. We got a spot for you. No one said a word, but they're steadily talking about us going to Africa, and we're not interested. That's the thing. You guys want us to be interested, and we're not interested. When will you guys get the memo? I will never understand. And then you guys say that we hate Africans if we don't want to go to Africa, but you don't want the Haitians to go? What is wrong with y'all? But let's look at the latest when it comes to the Haitians. I believe they have until September 2nd to get out of Dodge, or they're going to be hemmed up and snatched up and deported back to Haiti, which I don't think that's a chance they should be taking, to be honest.
I think it's inhumane. I don't believe they take us as real people.
But right now, fear and uncertainty gripping South Florida's Haitian community, the Trump administration officially revoking temporary protected status for Haitian nationals.
It's another move to crack down on immigration and means thousands all across the country and here at home in South Florida could be forced to leave the U.S. as soon as September 2nd.
Tracking the fallout and the reaction for us today, let's head over to Local 10's Michaela Hightower. Michaela?
This is a time of worry and uncertainty for the Haiti community, which South Florida is home to thousands of them. That date nearing soon, September 2nd, will be here before you know it. Tens of thousands of Haitian immigrants living in South Florida are now facing the loss of their temporary legal status. We don't have any country to return to. The Trump administration revoking TPS.
But why? Why don't they have a country to go to? Where is Umar Johnson? Where is Afro Think Tank? Where is all these Pan-Africans that can get up on the platform and invite them to come to Africa? Why won't those words leave their mouth to help out the Haitians while declaring that they're Pan-African, but they don't say shit to the Haitians? That's how you know that it is a propaganda. That's how you know that we are the propaganda, the Black Americans. That's how you know that they would like to displace us, replace us out of America with immigrants, you know? And these same Pan-Africans that are from other places are living, hoping to live and continue to live in America while telling us to get the hell out of America. But they don't have that energy for the Haitians who are in dire straits right now. I would really be stressed out if I was a Haitian, considering how bad off it is in Haiti. There is no stability. There's hardly a way of living there. There's nowhere to work. There's hardly a way to take care of yourself and feed yourself without having the fear of being killed by bullets or whatever like that, stray bullets and whatever, or being kidnapped and all that type of stuff. I would not want to go back to Haiti, and I would do everything in my power to figure out another solution for that problem. And that solution, obvious to me, is Africa. And while I say that, it's like everybody's been preaching this bullshit to Americans who do not have no connection to Africa at all. And 90% of us don't want to go there to Africa at all. But they keep browbeating Black Americans about going. But they cannot help the Haitians in this dire straits time to support them and help encourage them to go to Africa instead of going back to Haiti. That is just mind-boggling to me.
Expected to impact 500,000 Haitians living in the U.S. The Department of Homeland Security saying this decision restores integrity in our immigration system and ensures that temporary protective status is actually temporary. The environmental situation in Haiti has improved enough that it is safe for Haitian citizens to return home.
It's a laughable statement if it weren't so serious.
The executive director of the Saint-La Haitian Neighborhood Center in North Miami.
We've got gang control of over 90% of the country.
Haitian community leaders say the Trump administration's move to end TPS will force 500,000 Haitians to a country still in dangerous turmoil.
You've got a pending hunger crisis. You've got rape and theft and violence.
The State Department currently has a level 4 advisory, the highest against U.S. citizens traveling to Haiti, citing kidnapping, civil unrest, and limited health care.
Why on earth would we want to repatriate people under these circumstances? Right?
Why on earth does she ever think about Africa? Why won't the Haitians consider Africa? It just seems like an easy solution of thought to me, just to say, why not go to Senegal? They speak French. It's cheaper living over there. You can go over there in a cluster of people, maybe 100 or 200 at a time, and set up shop in one of these places in Africa. But they only want to rely on America. They only want to act as if they're entitled to America and having rights and all these types of things that they have not earned, they are not deserving of. It's very, very weird. You know, that's the issue that I'm seeing with these immigrants that come to America. They feel entitled and emboldened to rights that we actually earned. We actually bled and died over, and they think that they should just casually waltz in and take on our rights and wear it like a jersey and use it and discard it whenever they desire to do so and become, you know, whatever they really are after using our name and using our rights. As I said in previous videos that I've done before, it just seems like everybody springboards off of our civil rights and they get ahead of us when they do that. You got the gay rights that have used our civil rights and they've gotten ahead of us. You got these immigrants and illegals that have used our rights and gotten ahead of us. And for the first time, Trump is nipping it in the bud. And I support all that he's doing because it was dismantling America, was turning America into something that's not even recognizable. You know, some of these jobs was requiring that you knew how to speak Spanish, living in an English speaking country of America. They were making it harder for people such as Black Americans and other people that do not know how to speak other languages to suffer as far as getting jobs or other places to live with all these other added requirements that don't make sense, but would box you out of jobs and other things. And at the same time, these same people that are illegal were using our civil rights that's connected to our bloodshed to use it and get up over us as a collective of people. This is why I'm supporting Trump, because it was not right. I'm sorry that Haitians are going through what they're going through, but it's not our fault. It's Their situation is not our situation. I'm sorry. And like I said, everybody wants to make America responsible for everybody around the globe. How could we support and sustain this way of thinking in life? We couldn't continue it. We owe over $33 trillion. A lot of that money, I'm pretty sure, has been spent on illegals and immigrants all over the place. Americans just get asked out. I think about all the veterans that I have met that were homeless, telling their story about how they became homeless. There's no help to be found. But illegals get all this help. They get temporary protection. They get all these other goodies. That's why I had to stop. And a lot of people just don't want to accept the truth. They want to make it about racism and, oh, he's trying to be a king and all that. He had to do what he had to do because these things were happening too often and people were getting carried away with it. So he had to nip it in the bud cold turkey. And people don't like taking advantage of America. That's what it is. They don't like being able to take advantage of us anymore. But they're going to have to get over themselves and move on.
I think it's inhumane. I don't believe they take us as real people.
So this will likely be challenged in the courts, but if it fails and it does move forward again, September 2nd is that date. We are all waiting and watching to see what happens in the next couple of months, but a lot of uncertainty right now. Reporting in North Miami, Michaela Hightower, Local 10 News.
And by the way, there are stories of people that are wearing ICE clothing or whatever, pretending to be ICE, impersonating ICE. So be wary, especially if you are American and you know that you should not be hemmed up for no reason. Here's a story that I want to show that's happening just 5 days or 9 days ago. A California man was accused of impersonating ICE. He was found with fake IDs, stolen passports. Let's take a look at this so that you be mindful just in case you get hemmed up and you know damn well you are an American. You don't want him waltzing you away somewhere.
Is accused of impersonating a federal agent. Police say they discovered fake IDs, guns, and stolen passports. Fox 7's Gina Silva live in Huntington Park with the latest on this one. Gina.
Alex, the arrest happened on Tuesday when officers noticed a vehicle illegally parked in a handicapped spot. When they took a closer look, they realized something was very wrong.
He did have the equipment and the capacity to victimize our community.
24-year-old Fernando Diaz of Los Angeles drove this Dodge Durango vehicle with no plates and equipped with police lights. Inside the vehicle, officers found handheld police-style radios, a firearm magazine, a semi-automatic weapon, and forged documents bearing the insignia of Homeland Security Investigations and U.S. Customs and Border Protection. That's why the Huntington Park Police believe Diaz may have been impersonating an ICE or Border Patrol agent.
We have to believe that he either is involved in impersonating law enforcement officers or agents, or he is intent on impersonating law enforcement officers or agents.
Diaz was also found in possession of phones and passports that do not belong to him. And perhaps most alarming, his alleged criminal history.
The individual also has a prior arrest record related to human smuggling.
Human smuggling is a serious concern, especially among those who sounded the alarm over masked federal agents making arrests without showing identification or warrants.
We cannot allow bad actors, whether they are rogue individuals or unauthorized impersonators, to exploit this confusion, to intimidate and extort our community.
Huntington Park Mayor Arturo Flores says the federal government needs to be more transparent. He believes agents conducting raids should at the very least provide a badge number to help ease the fears of those being detained.
federal government has a responsibility to conduct responsible enforcement, lawful enforcement.
The Department of Homeland Security issued the following statement. When our heroic law enforcement officers conduct operations, they clearly identify themselves as law enforcement while wearing masks to protect themselves from being targeted by highly sophisticated gangs like Tren de Agua and MS-13, criminal rings, murderers, and rapists. Attacks and demonization of our brave law enforcement is contributing to our officers now facing a 500% increase in assaults.
And I think that the narrative that it's for their protection is a cop-out.
So be wary of people that are dressed like they are ICE, and especially if you know that you are not an illegal, you are not someone that's trying to become American. You don't have anything to do with those types of scenarios, and you have someone trying to hem you up talking about the ICE, you might have to handle that situation a little bit differently, not assuming that, you should not want to be taken away by somebody that you do not know, and you're an American. So just know that that is going on. That's not the only case that I saw. I think it was another video that I also saw. Andrena Jones says not going anywhere. Exactly. People want us to go. They don't want anybody else but Black Americans to leave. People are trying to say that we're next. People are arguing with us about why we not protesting for the Mexicans or Hispanics or Latinos, whatever you want to call them, in LA and all that type of thing. It's not our fight. It's not our problem. You guys put yourself in that situation by coming over here illegally, and you never thought that you would be hemmed up or caught up. And Trump changed all that when he became president. He has been studying what other countries have been doing, such as Poland and others, with their immigration situation, with their illegals and, refugees and all these people just coming off of boats and all that. And Trump definitely wanted to stop what was going on in our country. And people act like us as Black Americans should be aligned with illegals, that we should care about them over our own survival first. Come on, y'all bumped your head. I cannot believe all the videos that I keep seeing about people arguing with us about why won't we do this and why, because it's not our job. It's not our job. You came over here illegally. You took a chance and you lost this time. Finally. Thank God you lost. Wise Gamer says, go home. Your paid vacation is over. And Nikki says, y'all have been telling us to leave, even civilians, just because we don't like Trump. Okay. And Ab says, my mom got all her shit stolen by Haitians in a yard sale. What? That's how much they appreciate it here. Wow. Andrea says they are too focused on Black Americans. They really are. I knew back in 2018-19 that there was an obsession going on YouTube with all the conversations about who we are. We're really Africans. We are self-haters and all this type of talk. It's like, what are you talking about? I'm the same person I've been all this time I've been living. And because you come in with something called Panaffricanism, all of a sudden I'm a coon and I'm a self-hater because I'm not agreeing with what the fuck you're preaching about. Go away. Susan says, oh, Andrea, wait, just sit and wait. What is coming is going to be so bad, guaranteed. Okay. Ann says, exactly, Nikki. What's up, Pinky? Long time no see. I'm so glad to see you. You said whites are being deported also. Okay. And they too busy eating pets. Oh, my God. And Polar Family says, should I mention what happens to Haiti to immigrants when they actually notice them? I mean, there's a lot of people that have a lot of hatred towards Haitians. I know Dominicans. They're right next door to the Haitians. Of course, they're not trying to help them out. And, you know, apparently there's a preference here in America because all the melanated people are not being chosen to stay in America like that. It is what it is. You know, they have allowed too many people to come up over here, though, in all honesty. And Trump had to do something, and unfortunately it is affecting the Haitians, which, you know, I really feel that they should go to Africa. Why not? Anne says, has African countries set up processes to take in Haitians? No, Anne, they only talking to us. They keep bringing up Black Americans, African Americans, because they really feel like we got money, Anne. And they want to be able to take the money from us like a kid taking money from a baby. That's why they're targeting us specifically. And we're waking up to this hustle of Pan-Africans using us, stealing our resources, scamming us, setting us up, and leaving us with absolutely nothing. But they don't come to the Haitians, which a lot of them seem to have their shit together, though. Some of them had businesses here, cooking their foods and whatnot. Why not get to them that have, you know, made a life for themselves and they have a little bit of money? Why not invite them to come to Africa? It seemed like the easiest thing to say, yet no one's saying it. That's how you know Pan-Africans are full of shit. They're only about dismantling Black Americans from America. That's all they're on. And it's sad. And Mackie Sacer says, good news. Bye-bye illegals, okay? Yes, I say goodbye too. Fight for their country, just fight, don't leave, organize, and keep your country. I'm saying take your energy that you have over here and go back home and use it over there. Why not? You come over here bold, you come over here all brazen and screaming out rights and due process and judge talk to me, see about me. It's like, what the hell is going on? You can't do that in Mexico. You can't do that in Africa. You can't do that in Haiti. I mean, you might have to lose some lives, but that's what happens when you have change. People sacrifice to see the changes that they want. There has never been a time that there has been a change of a magnitude such as, you know, people coming over to another country without some form of sacrifice, either monetarily wise or bodies. That's what happens. But these people don't want to sacrifice in their home country. They want to come over here to America where all the sacrifices have been laid down already, and they just feed off the buffet of the sacrifice. And we're sick of that. We don't want that no more. Thank God we woke up. You said resource curse, look it up. Resource curse. Let me see if there's I've never heard that before. Is that a thing? Let me see, Bob Jones. What does that mean? I know that Africa has a bit of a resource curse because everybody wants what they got. I know that Congo just did a deal with Trump. Let me look it up. And it seems like Trump is going to fare out very well with getting minerals and stuff. I don't know if it's going to be a benefit for the Congolese people. They say that they found peace, but I'm not quite sure if they're really going to get what they bargained for. But I guess we have to wait and see. How do y'all feel about that, about what Trump has accomplished with Congo? I know that they had a couple of people that was in the Oval Office talking about how happy they were to have peace Okay, I'm about to play this little tidbit of what this resource curse is. I've never heard of it before. Hold on.
That's sitting on a gold mine of natural resources. Sounds like a dream, but that's where the resource curse hits. When you're too rich in natural resources, things get weird. Your economy basically becomes a one-trick pony. Just ask Venezuela. That went broke despite having one of the world's largest oil reserves. Their economy relied too much on oil, and when United States started putting sanctions on their oil, their whole economy collapsed. Countries like these often don't invest in their people in other industry. Take many African nations, for example. They're loaded with resources, yet the wealth rarely trickles down to the average guy. This fuels corruption, concentrates wealth in a few hands, and can even spiral into civil wars and political instability. And then there's Dutch disease. When your currency gets too strong because of resource exports, it crushes other sectors and jobs, making your country even more dependent on just one thing. What if you started a new country that's sitting on a gold mine of natural resources? Sounds like a dream, but that's where the resource curse hits. When you're too rich in natural resources, things get weird. Your economy basically becomes a one-trick.
Well, yeah, it's unfortunate that a lot of people don't know how to make other products outside of just the oil that they have or the gold or whatever like that. Africa, as we know, has a lot of resources, but they don't know what to do with it. And so they are leveraged to deal with other countries that know what to do with it. And they are mostly asked out of the equation because they don't have the know-how. And it's unfortunate that the brain drain of Africans that go all over the place, they don't take back their knowledge to their home countries and, do what the Chinese did. They learned and they mimicked and they came up out of nowhere. And the Africans have yet to do it. But it's all their fault because they have all the time in the world to now do something different. Trump's not playing with all these freezes. We know that the USAID was shut down months ago and all that money just dried up. And you would think that the Africans and the Caribbeans will collectively get together and strategize to figure out what they're going to do moving forward. But they refuse to because they're waiting hand and foot for America to take charge and other countries to take charge. And that's their fault. That's on them, that they sit idly by waiting for other people to correct what they can't correct themselves or refuse to correct themselves. So I don't feel connected to their issue. I'm not going to feel connected to their issue because I'm not over there. So it is what it is. But a lot of people would feel like I'm a coon or I'm a hater, traitor, all this type of stuff that people try to levy onto us and try to make us feel guilted behind their failures of a country or a continent of Africa. And it's unfortunate, but it's like Africa, they could just get together at any time and do something different, but they refuse to do it. So it's on them. So is it wrong that Trump made a deal with Congo for their minerals and pretty much Congo is not going to be developed any further? I don't know how much of development they're going to get from the deal. Or is it just about so-called stopping the fighting that's going on with the Rwanda? I don't know. But I thought that was kind of interesting. But anyways, I digress. Let me now see what you guys have to say in the chat room, and then I'm going to continue. I really appreciate seeing everybody. It's been a long time. I hope you guys are having a nice summer, and I hope that you guys had an enjoyable 4th of July. I didn't do anything. I just kind of like chilled and stay out the way. I don't want to really get involved with too much because of people doing these mass murders all over the place and everything like that. It kind of makes me not want to go in crowded places really like that. You said, turn to Jesus, end times are near. You must be speaking to my brother. He's sending me all kinds of biblical scriptures in my phone all over the place talking about God. I appreciate it. I understand. Jimmy says Martin Luther King asked to Cesar Chavez to join the movement. Cesar Chavez told him it's not our fight. Exactly, Jimmy. And so these Hispanics or Latinos faking the funk, coming to our spots talking about we're next and we did this for you, and way back in slavery time we even accepted some slaves. You accepted other people that has nothing to do with our bloodline who stayed in America. We never left to go to Mexico. So you're not talking to the bloodline that you supposedly supported. But they brought that up. It's like, that doesn't make sense because it's not our bloodline that went over to Mexico. Doc Spencer, how are you doing? You said Mexico should be bigger places in the world. Your president is lying to y'all, okay? Hi, Natalie Clark, how are you? Gregory says that's exactly what I voted for. Exactly. Pinky says you people speak of came for us Black Americans first, and they have never stopped coming, and we were always ready. Yeah, we were first, and I'm pretty sure, like I said, we're not going to be left without Trump coming after the criminals in our community. I'm pretty sure he's going to do whatever he has to do to get the gangs down and, the drug selling and all these other things that people do in the community that's holding us hostage. He's going to come and deal with that. So we're not going to be clear and free of anything that, Trump is going to eventually get to us, in other words. But the ones that are not criminals and nothing like that, we don't have really a lot to worry about like that. All right. Anyone remember U.S. funded cartels? Juan says, I'm not quite sure if I heard of that before, Juan. I'm pretty sure you could tell me more about it, though. Pinky says, Jimmy, now we will tell those people in the same ish is not our fight. Exactly. Hi, Margaret. How are you? CRXR says, what U.S. funded cartel are you speaking of? The ones from Carter, Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Obama? I'm not quite sure. And Pinky says, welcome back to Doc Spencer. Yes. And Juan says, Clinton, it's an illusion of choice. Andrea says, fight for your homeland, not us. Exactly. Fight for your homeland. Don't fight for a place that has nothing to do with you. But everybody wants to fight for America when we fought for America, and they don't want to fight for their homeland. And they want to come over here and brag about how proud they are of their home country, waving their flag and everything. But they don't want to do nothing to submit, change over there. They don't want to sacrifice over there. They don't want to die. They don't want to put blood and skin in the game. And that's what you got to do to make change. And they don't want to do it. But now they're mad because Trump is going to force them to do it. And that's what it is. You said be legal or leave. Easy enough, Susan says. Yes. Juan says Gary Webb alone. Anyone? Who's Gary Webb? Robert says, how long must a family bloodline be in place to be considered indigenous? My people have been here for 375 years. I figure if you've been here since the beginning when the Constitution was implemented and you have your bloodline from all that time, you would, in my mind, be considered indigenous. You're not an immigrant. That's what we mean when I say indigenous, meaning we're not immigrants, meaning we don't have a home country in Africa that we are a part of. We are not a part of Ghana or Nigeria or wherever. We don't have a home. Yes, I have an ancestor more than likely that came from Africa, but we don't have no information about where that person came from because these countries weren't around back then. A lot of these African countries were only around for 60, 50, 70 years. So I don't have no connection to Africa. And I only acknowledge my ancestors that made it to America, because those are the ones that did the sacrifice. Those are the ones that suffered. So they should be the ones that I remember. I should acknowledge them and their efforts and what they endured. I cannot make up a people in Africa and say and give praise to a people that never did nothing. And that's what Pan-Africans are pissed about, because they cannot brainwash Black Americans any longer with this myth of so-called ancestors in Africa. Those people never did nothing for Black Americans. So I'm not acknowledging them. And that's what it is. They don't like that. They want us worshiping Africans, and they have not earned worship at all. So they're not getting it from me. That's all I know. Juan says, notice how prisons became so profitable. Yeah, I do get that. Tell me what was going on in the Congo that he fixed without Google. They claim that they have a peace deal, mainly W2112. They claim that they have a peace deal. In fact, let me find the video. There was a pretty, the lady was a reporter, and Trump gave a compliment to her recently, and everybody was talking about that. I'll play a video for you real quick. Everybody was alarmed. Well, not really alarmed. They were shocked that he would say that she was beautiful or whatever like that. But she had a couple of words that she had to say. And again, they claimed that they did a peace deal. That was the whole gist of this meeting that they had.
Why don't you come up here so they can see? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
President.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, as Caroline has mentioned, President, first of all, I want to let you know that I'm the only African reporter accredited here at the White House that cover for the entire continent. So, I just arrived from Congo, Democratic Republic of the Congo, yesterday. I went to see firsthand how the people is feeling and the president's message, President Felix Tshisekedi, about this upcoming peace deal. And let me tell you firsthand what I witnessed myself. I spoke with the people on the street. I spoke with youth. They know your name. They know that our president named President Trump is working hard to finally bring peace to the country. I saw hope. They have hope now for a better day in Congo. They see what you're doing as a future, better future for Congo. And I had opportunity to sit down with President Felix Tshisekedi for an interview because I want to understand his mind, what he's thinking, his feeling about everything that your administration is doing. And he told me firsthand that for many years, many American presidents overlooked this conflict. They didn't do nothing. Even myself, I covered President Biden's administration. I pressed many times about this conflict. People are dying in Congo. This country has so much potential, but they need help because this war is destroying the country. They never gave me any answer. And he told me, President Tshisekedi, that you have no idea, he's very thankful for what you're doing, for what your administration is doing. Not only him, the entire Congolese people, they see that finally they will have hope. And President Tshisekedi also mentioned at the end of my interview that when peace finally comes to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, he's thinking to nominate you as a Nobel Prize Peace because he said you deserve, you have been working to bring peace in the world, not only at the Congo, and he's very hopeful to meet you.
That's so nice. Boy, and that's so beautifully stated. And Caroline said, number one, she did say, and I shouldn't say this, this is politically incorrect. She said, she's beautiful, and you are beautiful. I'm not allowed to say that, that could be the end of my political career when I say it anyway. But you are beautiful, and you're beautiful inside. So I wish I had more reporters like you. You've covered Africa for a long time?
Yes, for over 10 years. I covered even your first administration.
Yes, I know that. That's great. Well, thank you. That's so nice that you said that. Appreciate it.
And I have one more question,
Yes.
Mr. President. Since we know in July or in the future, both President of Rwanda and the Congo will be coming to the United States. In Africa, President John Lorenzo, the president of Angola, he's also the leader of African Union.
Good.
He
Yes,
worked very hard to bring this, but unfortunately.
Let's get him here.
Yes, that's
okay. Would you invite him for me?
Of course.
Okay. I know that he works very hard, and he's the head of essentially the union. So the union all over Africa, not the kind of union that we have. It's the union all over Africa, and I'd love to have him. So you'll let him know.
Of course, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Now you go back to where you belong, right?
Anyways, I'm not quite sure what they're going to really get out of the deal, but if they're happy with it, what can I say? You know what I mean? I know that Trump is definitely getting minerals, and maybe if they stop fighting and people are not dying, that's a good thing. I haven't really heard any news as of late if the fighting is still continuing or whatever like that, but you know, that happened a week or so ago, and everybody was talking about how he was saying that the reporter was pretty and everything. But I'm not quite sure what Congo is ultimately going to get. But I'm confused why Africans, you know, won't get together on their own. They have all these other options to get together online, to have a conference call, to go meet up somewhere and strategize and do things a little different, knowing that Trump is cold turkey stopping a whole lot of stuff. You would think that they would get the gumption and motivation to want to forge together and become this so-called Pan-African malarkey talk that they do all the time. The only one that's really living up to Pan-African talk is the Burkina Faso Toure, Captain Toure. But, you know, he has to stay alive. You know, everybody is praising him and everything like that, but he's only one man, and all it takes is him to lose his life, and then all that they have accomplished will go down the drain. So I don't know what the Africans are waiting for, but they shouldn't be waiting for Black Americans, because by and large, we're not coming. And if they can't see in their hearts to invite Haitians, I don't know what's going on over there. I don't get it. Anyways, this last video I'm going to show I thought was very interesting. This MAGA person has his wife who got detained by ICE, and this husband is still in support of Trump despite it. I believe he's Cuban. And a lot of Cubans voted for Trump. A lot of different people that are Latino voted by and large for Trump, even over the Black Americans. And I'm so happy that they did, because I was one of few of us that voted for Trump. The vast majority of the Black Americans voted for stupid ass Kamala Harris, or they sat it out. So we basically was at the mercy of the Latinos that eventually voted against their own people, which eventually helped us out as a whole, as Americans, which I support them doing, but they're upset about it now. And a lot of them have been blaming us as if we are deporting the Latinos. It's very odd. If you guys look up Black Americans not supporting the protests and whatnot, you'll get a whole lot of videos that's talking about us. You'll hear a lot of Latinos that are very upset that we're not putting our bodies on the line. We're not, you know, going to jail for them. We're not getting shot by rubber bullets. We're not getting tear gassed and all this type of thing. And they really thought that they had it like that. They really thought that we owed them our body. It's very weird that a lot of immigrants assume that we are to be their slaves today. And I'm here to tell y'all, we're not trying to be none of y'all slaves. Whatever y'all thought about or held on to thinking about Martin Luther King and all the others that died for the cause of civil rights, that era is over. You have a new breed of Black Americans, Indigenous Americans today, and we're about our own survival. That's what we're about. We're not here to save and spare anyone else. That's your job to do. And if you guys assume that we're to do it, you're going to get your feelings hurt. And a lot of people are very upset. But here is the video about this guy that is still in support of Trump, even though his wife is being detained.
Meanwhile, an Iranian woman detained by federal agents, she and her family.
Oh, Iranian, not Cuban, Iranian. Let's go.
All supporters of President Trump. See the MAGA hats. President Fox 11's Matthew Seedorf live for us in Diamond Bar. And Matthew, those Trump flags staying up tonight.
Yeah, those flags staying up. This family still supports Donald Trump despite their mom being detained. The final moments home for an Iranian woman detained by immigration agents. A mother Monday going inside to say bye to her 4 kids.
She came and kissed the kids, and that was it. That's the last time I saw her.
A proud President Trump supporting family in Diamond Bar.
Election time was here. I had a full 3-4 flags out.
Even while their mom faces immigration questions. Has your opinion changed on this?
That's a good question. Somewhat. It has. Just because I'm going through it. I was very selfish before. But what I see right now is, okay, there's a reason for it.
Arthur Sahakian's wife, Arpanay, was born in Iran and moved to the United States when she was 3 as a refugee.
She cashed a check. I believe it was less than $200. And this is all where it started.
Then, about 15 years ago, her green card was revoked over a conviction related to theft.
It's all misdemeanor stuff.
Arthur says they've been going through the legal process towards regaining citizenship with check-ins every 6 months or so.
She just went in April, and they said, okay, you're fine, have a good day. We'll see you back in September or October.
Then last week, the United States bombed 3 nuclear sites in Iran, increasing tensions and concerns of Iranian sleeper cells retaliating in the U.S.
I'm very for of them seeing the Iranian nationals because of the sleeper cells. I understand that.
Federal sources tell Fox News that more than 130 Iranian nationals were detained in the U.S. this last week.
I think it will resolve a lot of issues because we will know exactly who's in here for what reasons. Even though I miss her dearly, but I think we could do a better job of you catch someone, you see they're international, and do a background real quick and see if they have ties to the community and ties with families over here, and let them go.
What do you think is going to happen?
I'm on the list to be going to a different facility.
Arpanay speaking with us on the phone, uncertain about her future. Any regrets with your vote?
None. Still supporting him.
While her family continues showing support for President Trump, hoping their mom comes home soon.
Trump is not trying to do anything bad. We understand what he's doing, and he wants the best for the country.
So right now it's unclear if and
that was a first. I was really shocked by that video. I mean, his wife is being detained and he still has a nice spirit about himself. He's not upset. He's having faith and believing in Trump and what he's doing. He's acting like a real American who doesn't have anything to hide. And so it is what it is. But Cass Wolfenberger says, what's so hard about understanding you can't come here illegally and have a trial and then be a citizen? Exactly, Cass. That's so annoying for them to assume that they should just get in like that. F.R. Friegel says, who the F wants you to worship Africans? Pan-Africans want us worshiping Africans. They keep preaching to us that we are Africans, we need to go save Africa, we need to go build Africa, we need to go sacrifice for Africa, we need to go do everything under the sun for Africa. We're not over there. We don't have any family members in Africa. We don't have any culture of Africa. We don't have no language of Africa. And yet they still assume that we should get there. They assume that we're supposed to have some emotional connection. And if you don't, somehow you're a self-hater. It's like that ship has sailed. When our ancestors got tricked and flipped onto a boat on their ear, which, by the way, we have other ancestors as well. I have white ancestry and also Indian ancestry. So it's not just one thing. We're a multi-race people. We've been here for hundreds of years, and people just don't want to accept that part about us. They want us to hold on to the skin tone and exalt African over everything. And Africans have not done anything for us to revere. That's the catch. That is the truth. They have not done anything for us to revere, but they assume that we're supposed to somehow get this love and admiration and respect and worship for people that have not done nothing. It does not make sense, and you guys are not getting it. And it's unfortunate that they feel entitled to emotions that they have not earned, but it is what it is, and you're not getting it from me. I can respect Africans. Some of them are very smart, very well traveled, know a lot of language, all that I can respect, but it has nothing to do with my lineage and my struggle here in America and what my ancestors of America have done to assist us here in America. We are separate people at this point. And Pan-Africans are trying to make it seem like we have not changed and we have not evolved. We don't have an genesis away from being one thing. They don't want to accept that truth because they want to somehow have control over our minds and over our emotions. And they're upset that they don't have it like that. Pinky says, Matthew Roberts, you Europeans are immigrants, but you might be able to go back to the European country that dumped you, relatives here. Oh, Lord. Occupy says, deport Trump's wife. She was not born here. You know, she's not going nowhere, Occupy. Come on now. John says he doesn't have a clue. Eric says you can see the picture on Google Pictures. Aaron says, no way, she's wearing a Trump wig. CRXR, a lot of the black folks in the United States of America have ancestors from the South Pacific Islands. I'm looking at you, LeBron James, okay? Pinky says, Eric B. and your ancestors were probably here by a European country. See if they will let you back in. Christy says, he's so gross. Andrea says, I must get back to work to support my family. They are a priority. Oh, thank you for coming by, Andrea. Drina. I really appreciate seeing you. I hope to see you once again. I might come back another time this month, but I'm going to space it out more because I'm doing other things now. But I appreciate everybody for checking in with me today to at least hear what I have to say about the birthright citizenship and everything that's been going on YouTube with supposedly people being upset and bent out of shape about our reaction as Americans not wanting to get involved with illegals' affairs. We're not going to treat ourselves as hoes for illegals. We're not going to do that. So it is what it is. D. Vinco says anti-14th rhetoric is pro-slavery rhetoric. That's how it would have been seen in 1867 at the end of the Civil War. Okay. And Steve says nobody gives Trump credit. Well, Steve, it remains to be seen if there's really going to be peace in Congo. There's a lot of things that could happen at any moment that could displace that so-called peace. I mean, I give him credit for being the only one to supposedly do this peace deal, but there's a lot to be seen before it's proven, though. That's my point. CRXR says fatal flaw in your logic. If you're going to live in the past, let's go all the way back to the beginning. You can't just stop at a certain time when it's convenient for you. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Pinky says, Matthew Roberts, before you start talking, know what you're talking about. Bye. Okay. Graceful Grace says, I was told by a Mexican that Cubans think they are above Mexicans. Yeah, they really do. And a lot of Hispanics don't like black folks. You know, in LA, a lot of blacks that used to live there got chased out of LA. A lot of gangs were torturing a lot of black folks in LA. And now these same people want us to go stand in front of them and protest with them and be used as shields for them. No, thank you. We're not doing that. Godspeed. Super B says, this is a cool people. I'm headed out. Love y'all. Have a good day. Thank you for coming by. I appreciate you. Richard says, most immigrants that are here legally are in support of what Trump is doing. What do the blacks have anything to do with this? Well, Richard, unfortunately, a lot of people assume because of the civil rights fight that we have had in the past that we should help take up arms with anyone that is trying to get some type of right. They associate that with us. And they figure that we should do what we did before for them. Like we should be just used up and spat out whenever. And we're not wanting to go that route any longer, Richard. So we have told the immigrants and the illegals, you're on your own, hold your own nuts, fight your own fight, leave us out of it. We ain't got nothing to do with it. And carry on. Winter Lynn, how are you doing? You said, why does that type of thing even happen? Rubber bullets, etc. I thought you have the First Amendment. I know they say, but they always come out and do other stuff. That's why we can't take no chances. Not only that, I would suggest to Black Americans, with all this stuff about to go down in Florida, especially with the Haitians and everybody else, with that 500,000 people that have lost their temporary status protection, just steer clear of any place where they hang out at, restaurants or anything like that, so they can't misconstrue who you are. You don't want to be labeled a Haitian. You don't want the problems of what they about to go through. So steer clear of their restaurants or their places of business. Don't go hanging out. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Elite Gaming says he called ICE when she started that crazy free Palestine BS. Okay. Kevin says, thank you for being a real citizen. I'm assuming you're Black. Yes, I am. You're actually the very first sensible Black person I ever heard on social media. The first one? That sounds bad, Kevin. I hope I'm not the first one. That's really bad. Thank God. Thank you. You're exactly right. Thank you, Kevin, for the compliment. There are other sensible Black folks. You do have to look and find them, though. I'm not the only one. It's not a popular opinion to speak as bold as I'm doing for the most part, because a lot of people have had our number of control, like the Democrats have been pimping a lot of us in the past to just vote a certain way, not expect anything, not ask for anything. And we've been treated like that for 60, 70 years. We finally are waking up. Many of us are now getting away from the Democrats and we're voting Republican for the first time, such as me. I've only voted twice in my whole entire life. The first time was Obama in 2008. And the second time I voted was just this last election. And I saw that America was going down because of all the border being open. It scared me. You know, all these unknown men of military age, just all over the place, not known who they were, what their intentions were. And they just having all this access to resources and everything was given to them. And it just felt like a takeover and a replacement ploy against the real Americans of America. So this is why I had to vote for Trump for the first time, because I felt like America needed to be saved. So this is why I have my thoughts about, you know, how I feel now because of what Biden allowed to have happen. If he didn't do what he did, I probably wouldn't voted for Trump, but he did what he did. And so America was going down the drain in a hurry. And I had to help stop that. Godspeed. Super B says art is the other one that does that. We have to see for ourselves that Satan is not the way. Okay. And Pinky says he got a cheap divorce. Sheena says the husband probably called ICE on her. Oh my God. How you doing, Frank T? Thank you for coming through. The please don't deport my mother-in-law meme. Way Foreign Noel says Matthew 24:24. Pinky says Kevin McHale. There are a lot of blacks like this lady on social media. They might not be on social media as much. A lot of productive ones are at work with their family. They stay quiet. I didn't know about social media until 2018. But there are other people that think like me. They just are kind of quiet. But I hope more will come out and express themselves so that we don't look the part of how people are portraying us to look like. It's very disgusting what I observed with the Carnival cruise, with people fighting and getting all crazy over rap music. And now the Carnival cruise is making all these changes with their rules, no rap and other things that they are stopping to curb the behavior of some of those people that got on that boat. And I'm shameful to see that because that's not us as a collective. But the people that act like that always get brought on the camera to be shown and reviewed by the world. And it puts a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth about Black folks. And that's not all of us. So I hope that anyone listening to me would understand that we're not a monolith. We all don't think the same. We all don't act the same. And I hope that what Trump's doing is going to create the environment for people to just give up a lot of bad behavior because it has to go. He is not going to allow people to act a fool, people to be partaking in gangbanging and shooting all reckless and crowds of people and all that kind of stuff. That's all going to stop under Trump. So I hope that my people listening will get right and stop doing a lot of the senseless stuff that I see on YouTube, because that's a reflection of all of us, whether we are part of it or not. Wonderland says, Sheena, that's the problem that ICE can use for illegal actions. Sharon says, MAGA USA, great job. I heard that. Marco says, lots of blah, blah, blah. Okay. And some dude got Ellen. Okay. Kevin says, you blacks are here to stay. Yes, we are, Kevin. We have earned our rights to be here. I'm not going to allow somebody to fearmonger me, to pimp me, to punk me, to bully me into thinking about another place that's not together. A lot of other Black ruled places don't have their shit together. They're not helping their own people out. So what am I going to want to do in joining in the festivities of that? I don't think so. If they can get their shit together, then talk to us. But don't talk to us when your shit's not together. That don't make sense. You said, I never heard of that, Wanda says. Sheena says, the Dems feed immigrants head, saying America is the land of immigrants. They feel entitled. Exactly. And they even try to call us immigrants. A lot of the Democrats and the people from the Black Caucus and everybody like that have been trying to put us in the same category as illegals and immigrants. And I really, really despise that idea that they're trying to place on us, because we're not immigrants and we're not illegal. And I'm not going to try to hold the hand of people that are here illegally and try to put me in the same category. No, thank you. We're not that. Green Grassroots says, we don't have family members in Africa. Preach, women, preach. Exactly. I don't have nothing bad to say about Africans like that. But I'm going to be honest. I don't know anyone over there to claim. I'm not going to claim a whole host of people because they have Black skin. That doesn't make sense. Wanda says, we all do. CRXR says, actually, if you want to get technical, the United States of America was founded by settler immigrants come after settlers have already established something. Get it right. But those people that settled here, CRXR, did not do the work by themselves. They had forced labor by my ancestors that helped make the wealth that a lot of white people have enjoyed for centuries. So we were indigenous to America, and we were the labor, and we were the wealth. So I can claim it. Yes, slavery was a really bad situation, but look at what it built. Look at the wealth that it created. Look at the society that formed. Look at the cities. Look at the everything that was developed off of the wealth of slavery. So you can't discredit our ancestry and our history and our lineage for what we brought to this America, because without the labor and the wealth, what would America be today, CRXR? Okay? You wouldn't have what you got. So don't disrespect our lineage. Wanda says, nope. Kevin says black men in the hoods need to get right. They do, Kevin. I'm looking forward kind of to them getting rounded up, because they have been holding our culture, our society. They've been holding us hostage. And I don't think that they should be having that type of power anymore. So if they have to go to jail for them doing really devious, satanic, messed up stuff to the culture and to the community, and if they get rounded up and taken to jail or shipped off somewhere or deported somewhere, I'm not going to be shedding a tear. I'm not going to be losing no sleep, because they have been really a force of evil used against us. So yes, in our community, there got to get some cleansing going on in the hoods. And a lot of these men need to be held accountable for some of the stuff that they've been partaking in. And the ones that haven't done nothing, I hope and pray that they be spared to not be included in the festivities of what's coming down the pipeline. But if you can change your behavior now, I would suggest you do it. If you can cold turkey stop selling drugs or gang banging or murdering or stealing and killing and all of that, I would suggest you do it now, because if they got you on a list already and they're going to round you up and ship you off, you earned it. Pinky says, Art Novak, you're lost and you are the only one worshiping Satan. Please open your doors to as many illegals as you can fit in your home. Yes, it's very fascinating. No other country has this mess going on. Everybody has the right to make sure that their country's not being invaded, taken over. But somehow America is not supposed to do that. Somehow we're supposed to be globalizers, or globalists rather, for anybody and everyone to have their way in America. I'm so glad that Trump does not have that mentality, because America would be toast. Wanda says, who have you been in contact with that expect that from you? A lot of Pan-Africans, Wanda. You'd be really surprised. A lot of people assume that they should be able to bully and dictate to Black Americans how we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to feel, how we're supposed to respond. They really think that we're like sheeple to be controlled. And, you know, the Democrats have really thought that we're supposed to be easily controlled and said anything to, and somehow our allegiance and support should be forever. And we're not doing that no more. Wonderland says, Art, I don't understand that. You are not seeing that far. Too many of the people that are taken away are not illegals. Graceful Grace says, Africa is the richest continent in the world. All Black Africans, American bloodline is traced to the continent. Most of the African countries are still under foreign countries who keep most of. Well, again, Graceful Grace, in all due respect, my ancestor, if I have one from Africa, was left for dead, kicked off into a so-called cargo ship, left for dead, could have died many times over, somehow by the grace of God survived to make it to America, if that's the history of what happened, because there were also people already here in America that were reclassified into Negro, and they were actually a part of tribes of America. We were reclassified so many different times, and we're not one people. We are mixed up so many ways. And I am not glorifying the bloodline of an ancestor that may have come from Africa, because that ancestor was discarded like trash. That ancestor made it to Africa as a slave, or America as a slave, were treated inhumane and done dirty. And by the grace of God, that ancestor, if that was the history and the story, survived by the grace of God and by their will to continue living life, even though nothing made sense for them to live. I give all praises and credence to that ancestor that went through that, against all odds, survived that for me, so that I could see a better day today. And today we have a birthright that's disallowing us from being deported. That sacrifice, that great sacrifice that they gave their body towards for me to be secure and safe today. I give credence and worship to that ancestor that made it to America. I'm not going to give it to people that's in Africa now that never did nothing, don't know nothing about nothing. Kevin says we don't need our neighbors bumming. Okay, that's right. IROCC 1030 says the average American Black person is only 70-80% African ancestry. Out of insecurity and search for an identity, we cling on to Africans. I don't. That's a lie. I don't cling on to Africans. I never have. That's the issue that a lot of people have with me now, because I don't glorify Africans, because they haven't done anything to be glorified. So, no, I'm not clinging on to Africans. I cling on to my ancestors of America and everything that they have done here. MTG619 says you should change your name. Why is everything all about race? Because that's what's going on right now, MTG619. Haven't you heard about people being deported? Haven't you heard about people losing citizenship? Haven't you heard about people being detained and people being rounded up and hemmed up? It is about race right now. It is about our identity more than ever. And Trump has come in to help us delineate. We are in the 7th year or so of a delineation movement. We are declaring our own identity and our own Americanness for the first time. Many times we have idly sat back and let the government dictate who we're going to be called. And we now have said African American is not suitable for us any longer, because so many other people have utilized African American and have bastardized the meaning of our name. We have a Kamala Harris claiming to be African American. We have everybody and anybody claiming to be African American, which basically is cutting out the relevance of our identity here in America. So now we're taking the power back and we're declaring we're other names now. We're declaring, for me, I declare Indigenous American because I'm not an immigrant. And other people are saying that they are ADOS, American descendants of slaves, or other people now are saying that they're foundational Black Americans. Some are even calling themselves Indians or Moors or other names that they use. But the point is, we're trying to take power within ourselves to declare our own worth and identity for the first time ever. And Trump has solidified and helped us with bringing up who is really an American. And he's taken away the people that have faked and lied and gamed the system by acquiring American citizenship fraudulently, being a fake American. And he's doing away with those type of characters, which is going to only help solidify our delineation. And the purpose of us delineating is for us to safeguard our identity and our Americanness here in America, because people basically like to make us over for their own advancement and their own agenda, using us against our will, taking away our ownership of our own selves here in America, like we are not nothing but to be used like slaves. And we are not wanting that to be any longer. That's why we're delineating from other melanated groups of people, because they have their own identity. They don't need to use our identity any longer. They got their own. You said, Pinky says, graceful grace, all Black Americans can't trace bloodline to Africa. None is our culture. Please speak for yourself. I say, Pinky, that it's a possibility on my mom's side. Me personally, I could have African heritage from my mother's side, but I know on my father's side, it is Indian and white. It's possible, but I'm not going to exalt that so-called ancestor, if it's there, as being the one that I praise above all. That don't make no sense. I am more than one thing, and most of all, I'm an American, so it doesn't make sense for us to do. Sheena says, MTG 619, she shouldn't do anything. If you don't like it, keep scrolling. Graceful Grace says, poor because the foreign countries gave the African countries a business deal for the wealth under their feet, and that's why the African countries are still very poor. Ibram Toure has changed this. Yeah, he seems to be doing good, Graceful Grace, but a lot of the stuff that they talk about with him is AI. I don't know how truthful some of the stuff that I hear about him on video really is. A lot of people are propping him up as a messiah. I don't know about that. I know that he's connected to Russia. He still needs the help of another colonizer. So he's not on his own doing all these things for his own countrymen and women, separate from any other white group of people. Pinky says, MTG 619, welcome back. Some people in the chat made the conversation about race. Ira says, got chased off of job sites. Who did? You did? Brian says, you can't put sins of ancestors on descendants. Otherwise, everyone is liable for a dark history we didn't live in, Brian says. Well, Brian, what I would say is that a lot of people benefited off of the sins of what happened to our ancestors, though. Would you be fair and honest and say that your ancestors benefited off of the agony and the suffering of my ancestors? If you are white and you came over here and benefited off of the wealth of slavery. So if it's good for you to benefit off of, why isn't it good for us to get reparations? You guys don't have a problem with the small hats getting money, even though the Holocaust didn't even happen in America. You guys don't bat an eye when other countries are benefited off of the tax dollars. No one bats an eye, only when reparations is brought up for the descendants of slaves. It's the only time that people have a problem, and then they start talking about, we didn't have nothing to do with that. Why don't y'all open your mouths up when it comes to the Jewish people getting billions of dollars every year? And what about the immigrants that get billions of dollars every year? Do you bat an eye? Do you say something about that then? You probably don't, Brian. Wanda says we are not asking to be liked, accepted, or included. All right. Magpie, how you doing? Thank you for coming through. I remember you. Kevin says, preach. Magpie says, haven't seen you in a while. Keep missing you. Yeah, I've been gone. I've been trying to enjoy the summer a little bit. I will come back one more time this month, but I'm trying to kind of do other stuff a little bit. And I don't want to, I want to be in the know of what's going on with our country. So I will do videos to follow up, especially pertaining to the birthright citizenship and pertaining to other things that affect us as Americans. So I will do videos to kind of capture that. Brian says, if you don't think that the amendment wasn't for slaves, I urge you to watch The Color Purple. Great movie. But yes, children were deported a lot. Just Stan says, agree, use wisdom on Black Americans in Florida. Exactly. What I would say is definitely if you are Black in Florida, do not play around with your life. Don't take chances unnecessary. Don't go hanging out with Haitians and whatnot. I mean, unless you got a family with them, unless you're married or dating them, I really don't see why you would put yourself out there on Front Street so that you can be accused of being Haitian. I wouldn't take no chances. Be smart. Keep your IDs on you. Keep your stuff available that you have on you at all times so that you don't get caught up and hemmed up and assumed to be something that you're not. Graceful Grace says he came in office and got help from Venezuela, Russia, China, and ran the French army out of Burkina Faso. Now this country with Mali and Niger are working together and they are gaining 90% of. Yeah, I salute this Captain Torre. Again, I don't know how truthful all the videos are, but I hope that what he is doing ultimately will benefit the people. It remains to be seen. And it remains to be seen if this man is going to, survive, because there has been a lot of assassinating attempts against his life, coups that have been attempted. So I wish him well. Ray T says, is voting for Trump the thing that makes you a sensible Black person? Well, this go around, I was sensible, Ray, because I thought about my survival as an American first. He happened to speak the language that I was thinking about all along, which is American first. I support Trump because he is about the business of Americans first over other nationalities and other countries first. So that is being sensible. And I happen to be Black. People that vote Democratic was going against their own survival because the Democrats were flooding other groups of people over here to replace us on purpose and also get them to vote and have power, eventually make our voting power null and voided. So voting for Democrats was not going to be sensible. So I had to vote for the lesser evil, which happened to be Trump. And I understand that he's doing a lot of stuff that I don't know how it's going to affect us collectively. And I hope for the best. But I do believe in my heart of hearts that Kamala Harris would have been a train wreck. And I really believe that she would have really put immigrants and illegals over the American people, which would have infuriated all of us. That's what I believe. Just Me says, love Toure. Yeah, he seems to be a decent guy. Beaver Stacker says, without getting the rest of the Dems out for a while, nothing can change. We definitely need to get the Dems out. I really hope. Wanda says, wow, that's so sad. Ray T says, how is he saving America? Well, first things first is to get the ones that are scamming the system out, to stop the bleeding of America, and to stop the defrauding and the scamming of the system in so many different ways. It's been going on for decades. He's stopping all that. I hope that he's going to be successful. because if Trump's successful, we as Americans will be successful in the end. So I have to hope for the best for Trump. Brian says voting for good policy does that. Never dictate or dedicate yourself to a party that might fail and create division within yourself. Richard says, thank you for being a wonderful voice. It's such a pleasure to hear your sensible comments. What a relief. Thank you for your honesty and reasoning. Thank you, Richard. I really appreciate it. Green says, like Diamond and Silk, Trump will toss you aside. You can't give any rational reason for voting for Trump. I just did, Green. I just told you that we were being replaced by illegals and immigrants all over the globe. I just told you that Trump is American first. I just told you it's best to go with someone that's thinking about American first versus other groups of people that have not earned nothing and were given everything by Biden. They had to go. So that's why I voted for Trump. If you don't understand that, still, there's something wrong with your brain. Mitchell says, no, they're the blacks. This is completely different. Has nothing to do with race. It has to do with our money staying in our country. Simple, nothing else. Exactly, Mitchell. Richard says, don't blame your stupidity on Trump. Wow, okay. Magpie says she voted this time because she couldn't let idiot Kamala win for nothing. Exactly. I was really adamant about voting this time, and I was really scared of Kamala becoming president. I was really worried. Brian says, I wouldn't vote for an Irishman just because he's Irish. Graceful Grace says their country's wealth. France colonized 14 countries in West Africa, and they are taking back their wealth. The 3 countries above are part of the 14. France has ruled these 14 countries. Yes, I heard Graceful Grace. And that's what I mean about why can't other African leaders take the cue of what Burkina Faso has done and join in the festivities of what he's doing. They could simply call and say, we're cowards. We don't know what we're doing. Can we link up? Can we change certain things to be a bigger block that you have created so that we can help our people out more? We see Trump is cutting off a lot of stuff. We don't know what our future is going to bring about with all these different changes all at once. They should do that. They're not doing that either. It's on them. Ray T says, I don't align myself with any party, but when someone shows you that he has real thought behind his action and responds like a child, believe them. Okay. Elizabeth says, hi, how are you? And Wanda says they have been doing that with the media. Vada says, what did Biden do? I don't understand you. Please list what Biden do. List what Obama did while you're talking. The Democrats, Veda, have never benefited the American people. They have essentially ignored us and discarded us and used us, though, first for our votes, not promising us nothing and not giving us anything. And they have blessed a whole host of other groups of people that have nothing to do with the building of America. The Democrats have used our civil rights to advance other groups of people over the American people. The Democrats are treacherous traitors. They are not loyal to America. The Democrats have aligned themselves with the likes of George Soros, who is a globalist, who wants America doomed, gutted out, changed over into another country that we do not recognize. This George Soros paid billions of dollars for Biden and Obama to do these open borders, to have all this ratchetness come in, gangs, drugs, fentanyl, human trafficking, all the above, they have allowed on purpose. And you see where their allegiance lies with the illegals. You see the people that's supposed to represent us aligning with illegals. And they're not thinking about Americans. They're not thinking about the veterans. They're not thinking about the homeless people. They're not thinking about nobody else but other people from everywhere else but here. That's why I do not like Democrats, because they have proved and showed their allegiance to be everything else but America and American. That's why they had to go. And Aaron, no, I'm not a cone. You may have that perception, but I bet your bitch ass won't renounce your citizenship. If you claim America's so bad, why won't you go? You know why you won't go. Because there's no other place better. Chopper Man says, female uncle. No, ain't no female uncle nothing. I'm just not a bully. I'm not gonna be bullied, rather. I'm not gonna be punked. And I'm not gonna be pimped. And that's what you're mad about. Oh well, get over yourself. Brian says, I remember when a school said a quote was racist, but it was a quote from MLK saying he prefers content of character over color of skin. Yeah, I got you. You said you don't know anyone, but have you tried? I'm not trying no DNA test. It doesn't make sense to get a test. For what purpose would I do a DNA test? I'm not changing my colors. I'm not changing my ideology or my emotions about how I feel about who I am. And taking a test, again, those tests are for entertainment purposes. And I'm not trying to be entertained. I don't need validation from strangers. I'm not here to be appeasing to anyone. I don't care about their thoughts and views. I care about how I feel about myself. And that's the problem with a lot of people trying to get validation from strangers that don't matter. Dennis says, please look up what it means, 14th Amendment citizen. It doesn't include white state citizens. Yeah, I did play. Let me see if I can find a short video to play for those that are still kind of confused. And it's very interesting how a lot of people assume because I am Black American, somehow I'm supposed to just have this allegiance and loyalty to Africans. You guys sound stupid. You guys really, you said amendments, 14th Amendment. I'll play that. Let me see, 14th. Hold on. Let me see if they have something I can play that's short and sweet. I did play earlier Trump's response to the birthright citizenship remark, and he said it was meant for the babies of slaves. A lot of people assume it could be used for anybody, but that's not what it was meant for. And I'm going to play this short clip from CBS News and hope that it'll clear up the confusion if you have confusions.
President Trump's order ending birthright citizenship is on temporary hold after a federal judge last week called it blatantly unconstitutional. Birthright citizenship derives from section. Of course, this was an older video 5 months ago. So we do know now that the Supreme Court has aligned themselves with what Trump's saying and that the birthright citizenship is going forward. And again, they're making adjustments as to who can use the birthright citizenship because it was really meant for the descendants of slaves. And it was not meant for immigration. It was not meant for illegals. And he's just trying to right the wrongs and how people have been abusing and misusing that amendment. 1 of the 14th Amendment, which reads in part, quote, all persons born
or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Vice President J.D. Vance defended the executive order on Face the Nation.
If you come here on vacation and you have a baby in an American hospital, that baby doesn't become an American citizen. If you're an illegal alien and you come here temporarily, hopefully, your child does not become an American citizen by virtue of just having been born on American soil.
Amanda Frost joins me now. She's a professor at the University of Virginia School of Law, director of the school's Immigration, Migration, and Human Rights program. Thank you for being here. Can you take us back? What was the intention behind passing the 14th Amendment, specifically this part about birthright citizenship?
Yeah, the goals were very clear of the Reconstruction Congress and the nation. This was shortly after the Civil War, and Congress's first goal was to overrule the infamous Dred Scott decision, in which the Supreme Court held that no Black person, whether they were free or slave, could ever be a U.S. citizen. So that was clearly the first and primary goal. But the secondary goal, and they talked about this in the legislative history, was they wanted to integrate the children of immigrants. They knew America was a nation of immigrants, more were arriving, and they explicitly said, we want the children of immigrants to be equal citizens and equal Americans.
But that can't be true, because back in the 1800s, the immigrants weren't immigrating over here. So again, I think she's a liberal and she's adding her own little twang to it. This was done 5 months ago on this broadcast. And I think that a lot of liberals assume that anybody should be able to utilize this birthright citizenship. And again, the Supreme Court is on the side of Trump. They're saying, no, it was not meant for immigrants. It was not meant for illegals. And we're going to make adjustments where adjustments need to be made. And people are big mad because they have been abusing that amendment for a lot of decades. And a lot of people have come over here and dropped their babies off and became citizens just like that by hustling the system. And I'm glad that Trump is stopping that bullshit, because again, we don't know who the real Americans are. The way things have been, it's been just very loose, and he's tightening it up now. So I'm glad he's doing that. Magpie says the settlers came with slaves. They've been here. Just Stan says, CSRX read about the slave trade. Exactly. In the slave trade, again, those slaves that were discarded and kicked off into a boat, left for dead, starved, and all these different things, raped, all these different things. A lot of them were thrown over to the sharks, and all kinds of devastating things have happened. That's not a very, it's not a prideful story to tell in regards to what happened in Africa. So a lot of people that's assuming, because of the Pan-African talk, that Black Americans are supposed to have this allegiance and loyalty to Africans just because, you guys have bumped your heads, really. And, you know, we're not standing for it. Black Americans are not standing for what people assume we're to do and what we're supposed to be. We're not letting you dictate anything to us any longer. And you guys just need to catch up to that reality. And you guys are finding out fast that we have a brain. We're not going to be used and abused by any group of people because we're just supposed to be civil rights little robotic bots for y'all. We're not going to be played like that no longer. Green Blue Phantom says, whites in America didn't invite you to the family reunion. That white blood, you didn't get it. Honestly, I'm not glorifying white blood, Green Blue Phantom. I'm just acknowledging that it's there. I can't, you know, I've talked to my cousin, my older cousin, who happened to mention French possibly in our family bloodline just recently. It is what it is. It's a story. I'm not glorifying. I'm not saying, oh my God, I got white in me. I'm white now. No, I'm not talking like that. I'm just saying I'm multi-raced. I am an American. I have a different type of blood line from different areas of people. It is what it is. I'm not going to just sit up here and lie. Dark Grabba says this is actually a great take. Pinky says, Fillmore, you can always get away from the 13%. Go back to the European country that dumped your ancestors here because they were lazy and worthless. Okay. Pinky also says all ethnic groups have hoods and need to make changes. Yes, I'm just saying we could make an adjustment of change, especially from bad behavior. And we got to get back to morality. There was a time when we were fearful of being mocked or ridiculed for having babies out of wedlock and all these other things that we used to do that people would whisper about and put shame onto people. And now nothing shames us, really. That needs to come back. We need to be feeling like we need to adjust our behavior collectively. Not all races here in America needs to get an adjustment, to be honest. David says, what has she said that's evil other than some historical inaccuracies? I don't know what that is, David. Could you tell me what I said inaccurate? And you said you can return to your ancestors' homeland. Pinky says to Alk Red Dog. And I don't know what evil he's talking about. And Civil War says deport them all. Y'all act like we're supposed to be happy with people that came over here illegally. Y'all sound dumb. Can I go to Mexico and stay over there indefinitely and do whatever the hell I want to do? Can I go to Dominican Republic or Jamaica or Africa and do whatever the hell I want to do? No, I can't. So why would I support people being able to do that here? That don't make sense. That's not hate. To point out the truth. John Penn says, amazing you do so many drugs and still articulate. I don't do drugs. I just smoke bud, if you call that a drug. It's legal in California, though. And I haven't smoked today. Maybe I should look to smoke, though. Anyway, smokes, let's go. Every single white country has this problem right now. Exactly. Pinky says, Bayo, like we wonder why you're over here. Bye. Doxa says, why aren't the whites moving illegally to other countries? Yeah. Magpie says 250 years out of Africa, Black America is American, different culture, traditions, language, and ideology. Exactly. It's not saying we hate anybody. It's just acknowledging that there has been a big change with our blood, with our culture. You know, I don't even serve the same God as Africans. You know, they have Ungun and other gods, deities. I don't acknowledge. I don't have nothing alike with them. And people just need to respect our differences. The problem is a lot of Africans, unfortunately, don't want to respect us. They want to try to control us. They want to try to force us. And they're mad, in my opinion, that they're not hovering over us. That's the position that they would like to see themselves in. That's why they keep talking about how much money we have. Supposedly $1.3 trillion. We have spending power. They keep obsessing over that amount. They keep acting like that money is deserved and earned to them. And we're not even over there. Again, they have fixated this obsession over Black Americans, and it's not about anything other than what they think we got. And we call that out. Again, the Haitians are in dire straits, in need of being supported right now. No African country, no Pan-African has said, hey, Haitians, we would love you to come over here to Africa. Why is that? That's how you know they're fake and phony. That's how you know that they're only trying to scam Black Americans and hustle us and control us and get money from us. And we're not going for it. And y'all big mad about it. Oh, well. You said, why should the whites move? We're not going anywhere. Exactly. We're not going anywhere either. Black Americans. And thanks to Trump, the Brazilians aren't playing their loud music in the middle of the night anymore. Okay. While the massa has a hold on you to this day. No, there's no massa having a hold. Trump is our president. He's like the manager. And he's not my massa. I don't worship Trump, but I appreciate his efforts to clean up a mess that was created by Biden. Okay? Can you admit that Biden fucked up, J-Ster? Or are you going to be a coward and lie and say Biden never did nothing wrong? Okay? You're one of those sheeples of the Democrats. You are the one that's a slave to the Democrats. You are a useful crash dummy fool. That's what you are. And you said, I can finally sleep. Okay. So then go to Africa if it's so great. That's what I say. If you guys feel like it's so great, prove it. Renounce your citizenship and get gone. Just don't expect nobody to follow you. And Trump forever, Chewy Baca says. Brian says, Matt, and you think you aren't being racist saying that? Pinky says, Doxa whites move to other countries illegally. No one bothers them because they usually have money. That's true. Civil War says, Vance 2028. Smokes, let's go. The world racist has no power anymore. That won't work. Haha. Okay. James says, love Trump. Brian says, sorry, meant for the J-Ster. Civil War says, birthright didn't apply to illegals that were here illegally. Just because they had a child here does not give them birthright. That's the way I feel. Yes, James says, love Trump. David says, true, rich African kings and empires had been doing it since pre-Roman times. That's the part that kills me, David. Like, they've been doing slave trade, the Africans, well before the Europeans showed up. And now they're trying to clean up what they did, claiming that they were forced to do it when they were doing it before. They taught the Europeans how to do it. The Europeans took what they were taught and just expanded what they did. They just made it worse. But they got the idea from the Africans. And y'all expect me to turn around and worship Africans, worship slave trade, bloodline, and put them on a pedestal? I don't think so. That would be a cone. That would be a sellout. That would be someone that's a useful crash dummy fool. And I'm none of those. Maria says, always complaining and many excuses, always us. Okay. Cassio says, I've been through a spiritual battle and the evil things I've seen and heard would terrify you, but I kept my faith strong and Jesus sent me visions and helped me fight through it. God is real. I believe that. You know, I've been through some scary medical experiences, close death encounters. God has seen me through those situations, and I became a believer then. I definitely believe in God, and I know he's real. And I know that, you know, God listens to those who are at their worst. You know, if you really look up and speak to him, he will speak back to you if you believe. You said, bahaha, this guy just used the we was kings and shit. Okay. Renee says, you're going to be surprised when they redefine birthright. Renee, that's just a tactic of propaganda. You're trying to fearmonger us. Why don't you fearmonger the other groups of immigrants that have come over here for only 20, 30, 40 years? Do you ever think about that? Why is it always to Black Americans that everyone's trying to scare? Think about that. We've been here longer than anyone. Longer than a lot of these immigrants that migrated over here in the last 50, 60 years. And somehow we're supposed to be scared, not them. Think about that, Renee. That doesn't make sense. You said, I still have PTSD because of it. Keep praying. And David says, King, and Fortune says, we are indigenous. We are indigenous to America. I know that people don't like us using that word, but they're going to have to get over it because I'm going to keep using the word. We're not immigrants. That's just my way of saying we're not immigrants. You said can't say 70 to 80%. David says there were almost 200,000 Nigerians brought over here in the 80s. Is that right? Oh, you meant 2 million over in the 80s. Is that right? I never heard that before. Arabs. Okay. Chinese. All right. So anyways, I'm going to conclude and just say, you know, we have a lot of waiting to do to see what's about to happen. A lot of people have been given their warning about what's about to happen with this temporary protective status being revoked. And a lot of people that assume that they were safe are not so safe no more. And I would just say to those people that are kind of confused about what's about to happen, if you are, you know, close to being deported, I would take it upon myself to get out of Dodge. And if I was Haitian, I would definitely consider Africa. Why go back to Haiti? It's an option that no one is suggesting to Haitians. And I think it's pretty effed up that y'all don't care about Haitians like that. It is really weird and strange to me that Pan-Africans are not out here campaigning for Haitians to go to Africa. I don't get it. But that just proves to me that Haitians, or rather Pan-Africans, are full of shit. They don't mean what they say. They just want to get us somehow underneath their spell of control. And we're not doing that. So it is what it is. So anyways, I will be back sometime this month. I don't know when, probably towards the end though. And we'll talk about what Trump's doing or what these changes about to happen with the big, beautiful bill. Oh, I guess I can close with that. The big, beautiful bill. I don't know what's going to bring about with that. That's supposed to start next month. And a lot of people are not going to be happy with that, with those changes. I hope it's not going to be as bad as it seems it may be. I think that Trump is trying to starve and purge people that shouldn't be on the system to be off the system. And maybe after a month or 2 or 3, he will make some adjustments, because I do fear for people losing Medicaid, for instance. There's a lot of people that are, you know, waiting for surgeries and other procedures to happen. They need their medicines, they need dialysis and all these other things that may be needed to happen. And if he cold turkey stops a lot of people from taking care of their health, a lot of people could die. And I am kind of worried about that. I know that people are also going to stop some of the, programs such as Section 8 and other welfare or whatever type of programs he's going to cut off or make rules for. I don't know how that's going to look, y'all. I just hope that it's not going to be as bad as it could ultimately be. But, you know, it is what it is. He's going to make everybody feel something behind this big, beautiful bill. How do you guys feel about the big, beautiful bill? Do you think it's a good thing, a good idea? Or do you feel like this needs to happen as well? I'm just kind of concerned a little bit about it. But let me play this video real quick to talk about it. And then I'm going to include this video because I've been on here for a few hours now. And I just wanted to let it be known my opinions about everything going on so far. And this is the big, beautiful bill.
And with that bill now law, what's in it for you? Our Brendan Kirby had a hefty reading assignment and breaks it down.
There are a lot of provisions in the new budget bill that apply to businesses, but we thought that we'd focus on the taxes and benefits that apply to individuals and families. We should start with personal income tax rates. Congress cut them during President Donald Trump's first term, but they were scheduled to revert back to the previous levels. With this act, they will remain low across the board. Here's some other things that some of you have commented on.
How damaging this bill will be to their quality of life.
Critics of the budget bill signed into law Friday cite a multitude of objections. Here are some of them and what the text of the law says.
A lot of people are going to lose Medicaid funding with this bill.
That's the federal health program for the poor. Democrats claim almost 12 million people will lose health care. The bill doesn't change the income eligibility requirements. Instead, it imposes new requirements that critics say some people have difficulty complying with. It requires able-bodied recipients to work, attend school, or volunteer 80 hours a month. But critics say it's hard to know where to draw the line on who is disabled enough to be exempt from the work requirement. The bill also requires states to check for eligibility every 6 months to prevent people from double enrolling in more than one state's Medicaid program and remove illegal immigrants or others who don't qualify. It also makes changes to the Affordable Care Act that reduce federal funds to states that choose to cover immigrants who may not qualify under federal rules.
He's taken away so much from people. He's taken away food.
That's a reference to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, commonly called food stamps. As with Medicaid, the law doesn't change eligibility, but includes work requirements for able-bodied recipients and extends those work requirements from the current cutoff age of 54 to 64. It exempts pregnant women and parents with children younger than 14. It also limits eligibility to citizens and legal immigrants in most cases. And it shifts some of the costs to the states.
The tax cuts that they have made for folks who make an awful lot of money, those tax cuts are permanent. Those are the ones that should be temporary. Let those folks who work in a service industry that most of us would not want to, let them benefit from the tax cuts because they need them.
That's a reference to the much talked about provision reducing taxes on tips. And indeed, those are set to expire in 2028. That's also the case with two other changes. Let's look at all three. No tax on tips. Taxpayers can deduct up to $25,000 in tips on their tax returns. This starts phasing out on incomes greater than $150,000 for individuals and $300,000 for couples. There are provisions designed to prevent regular income from being reclassified as tips. No tax on overtime. Taxpayers will be able to deduct overtime income up to a $12,500 limit, $25,000 for couples. This also phases out for wealthier taxpayers. Trump accounts. This will be a savings program for all babies born in the United States during Trump's second term. The government will make a one-time $1,000 contribution, and families can contribute up to $5,000 a year. The money can't be used until the child turns 18. There are other adjustments to the existing tax code that will affect millions of Americans. For instance, the standard deduction is going up from $15,000 to $15,750 for singles and from $30,000 to $31,500 for couples. Those limits will automatically rise with inflation. And the child tax credit will go from $2,000 to $2,200. It also will rise with inflation. There's a lot more in this bill that we just don't have time to go through tonight, but we will continue to go over some of the items that concern many of you. Reporting in the News Center, Brendan Kirby, Fox 10 News.
See, that's my fear, the big, beautiful bill and how that's going to really have an effect to a lot of people that are not ready for these changes, especially concerning their health. I'm worried about it, but there's nothing we can do. I just hope that whatever Trump's doing, he's being strategic. I think he's trying to get the illegals off of all these programs, and I think that he might make an adjustment, I pray, kind of quick after a couple of months. But it remains to be seen. I will be doing a live once this big, beautiful bill is activated next month. I will come on one more time this month before the month is over to kind of like see where Trump's at and what's been done, you know, especially about, you know, these people that are being rounded up, such as Haitians and everybody else like that. We're going to see what's going to happen or what's been said as far as their status, if it's going to hold or not. Again, you know, people are assuming that Black Americans are to be used and abused. And luckily for us, Trump has helped us delineate. I don't know if he's been paying attention to YouTube and other social media programs to hear us wanting to delineate, but this helps solidify our delineation movement, and it helps us feel more pride about who we are here in America, because it's not convoluting who is who. It's kind of changing that from being confusion that has been always. So I am support of the deportations and the delineation, but the big, beautiful bill, it remains to be seen how that's going to affect us collectively as Americans. So I'm going to pray about it and hope for the best. That's all I can do, and do more research as more information is brought forth. So I hope that you guys would support by hitting the like button and subscribing to my channel. I appreciate everybody for being here. I'm kind of shocked that so many people came and tuned in on this live. I didn't expect anyone to even know I went live. So I appreciate everybody. I do understand that not everybody agrees with what I've said. A lot of people, again, assume that they are able to dictate to Black Americans how we're supposed to be. You guys have no power. You guys are not in control, and we're not no one's slave. So until y'all get that and understand that, this is why all the confusion online has been existing with the Latinos and other groups of people crying to Black Americans to help them out when it's not our problem and it's not our fight. It's not our plight, and we're standing 10 toes down on American business. If it's not about American business at this point, we do not care, and you shouldn't. And this mentality that I've had since 2018 is the mentality that's going to save us with what Trump's doing. That's what we got to think about, is our correct mentality and how we need to be for our own survival and peace of mind. We cannot be for everybody in everybody's situation. We got to care about ourselves, finally. And that's what's happening. So thank y'all for coming through. Thank you, Pinky Wells, for being here, and everybody that's a moderator, Sheena, and I think I seen, what's his name? Brother, man, I forgot his name that quick. It'll come to me after I get off. But thank y'all all for being here. Please hit the like. Please subscribe to the channel, and have a blessed day, and pray and help out your neighbors, help out your family where you can, where things might be shaky for them. Just be a blessing to people around you. Americans are really going to need the support, and we got to try to help our own. That's what I say. Thank you all for being here. Please like and share the video, and bless up.